All right, we are live. Welcome to the Vet S.O.S show brought to you by the Who You Know Network, where what you know is important, but who you know can make all the difference in your job search. We have our brand new show kicking off. My name is Mark Elder, co-host along with Sean Welsh, also our co-host for today. And we have some fantastic guests. Get ready for some fire with today's guest, Alfredo Torres, Matt Scherer, Don Gleason, and Brett Courier. So welcome, Sean. How are you? How are you doing? Oh, we are running into some audio now with Sean. Hey, the thrill of live performance. Let me see here if I can get this fixed. Bring him, I'm going to take him out and bring him back. All right. Do you have audio? No, we still don't have any audio. Uh-oh. Well, this is going to be interesting. Sean, maybe if you try leaving and coming back in, that may help. But while we're waiting for Sean's audio to come in, I want to let you know that we have a ton of content for you. We are getting ready to launch the podcast to bring you resources for VSO organizations that are providing career transition space to veterans, active duty, out processing, and veteran families and spouses. So we are going to hear from our guests here in a little while, but we are going to start this first segment of the show talking about the background that we have, our military prior experience, prior service, and just about who we are. So again, my name is Mark Elder. I am a veteran, served back in the 90s as a medic in the United States Air Force. It was a pleasure and an honor to serve my country, and just love sharing that with you guys, bringing these resources to you, and paying it forward. That's what it's all about, right? Paying it forward and making sure that the resources that are out there are known. There's a lot of regional organizations, veteran service organizations that are out there, and we are wanting to highlight them because they're not getting maybe the national exposure that could be warranted for those organizations. And there's service members all over the country and all over the world that are getting ready to out process, and we want to make sure that they have the support and assistance. Obviously, there's programs within the service and the military to help with, like TAP, with their transition, but there's so much more out there, and we want to make sure that you guys are leveraging not only your experience but our network, right? Because again, our network is the Who You Know, and we want to make sure that it's not as much what you know, but who you know that you're leveraging through our channels. So thank you for joining us today. I do want to give some shout outs. Hey, Dion Myers, I see you there. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing great, and let us know where you're tuning in from. So rep your city, rep your state, rep your country, wherever you're at. If you are overseas, thank you all for your service, and yeah, give us a shout out so we can give you a shout out back. Also, if you are joining us, make sure that you're chatting in the comments. We love seeing those chats and engaging with you as we progress in the show. Still waiting for Sean to come back in with us. Looks like he may be having a little bit of trouble getting in. So we'll press forward. So one of the things that we do like to highlight is, in advance of our future shows, it's too late now for you, but in advance of our future shows, you can pair your channels. So you might be asking yourself, hey, how can I get involved? How can I pay it forward? How can I lend a hand to these folks that are in a career transition, either from active duty or a veteran or family member? You can, through Restream and through your channels, pair them to our live feed in the future. And here we got Sean back. Hey, Sean, looks like you're muted. There we go. Can we hear you?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Welcome, Sean. We've got Sean back with us. So Sean is currently active duty in the United States Army. So he is currently serving, but he is getting ready to out process. So he's graciously decided to help steer and create this show. And he has a ton of content, ton of knowledge to share as well. He's very passionate about helping and paying it forward to the veteran and service member community. And so we're excited. We're super excited to have you guys all join us and our future guests here in just a short while. So, Sean, why don't we start? Now that you're back with us, I shared with them just very briefly a little bit about my service in the Air Force as a medic. You want to share a little bit more about what's going on with you, where you're at, what your, maybe what your specialty is, what's going on with your time frame. When are you getting out of the service?
Absolutely, Mark. First of all, great to be on the air and actually be on the air after having the technical difficulties. So, very excited about that. Very excited to get this show going. I am nearing retirement. We'll have 20 years in service, active duty Army, served as an intelligence analyst for the bulk of my career, all of it. So, I've continuously done intelligence work, deployed several times with the various units the Army oversees to do that mission. So it's been a fantastic journey, and looking forward to starting the next chapter. And part of the birthing of this show was just the outpouring of resources we have out there as transitioning service members and veterans to reach out to. And so hopefully we can highlight some really great people through this show and do some great things with it.
That's right. That's right. We do have some, looks like some maybe active duty service members. We got a few people in. So if you are joining and you have not, let us know where you're tuning in from, and let us know what your status is. Are you active duty? Are you a veteran? Are you searching for your next successful position? And if so, what is your specialty? What type of work are you looking for? So thanks for joining us. Where are you at? Why don't you tell us that, Sean? What's your current location?
So I'm down here in beautiful Savannah area at Fort Stewart, Georgia, having fun here with the third ID, getting ready, like I said, to start that transition process and move on to the next chapter. Can't ask for better weather. A few thunderstorms coming in today, but it's been nice and warm already and ready to rock and roll.
Yeah. And so as you get ready to out process over the next several months, I think you still got a few months left. What are your plans? Where are you going from there?
So right now we're looking at retiring in the Jacksonville area. Great veteran community down there. A lot of great things going on. A lot of things that I can help out with, get involved with. So I'm really excited about that. Plus we got family, and we've been Florida residents pretty much our whole lives. So be getting back home, finally putting down some roots. So that'll be probably the best part about the whole thing.
Absolutely. Now you and I met through the Career Transition Network, our Who You Know network, the parent organization for the show, and you have come through the summit, which we put on for that Who You Know network. But we also know that you're doing several other things with some of these VSOs to help bolster your search, because after you get out, you'll likely be moving on to your next successful position. What has that been like?
Overwhelming, and most veterans will probably tell you that. It's there are so many resources out there, and just to start off with Who You Know, if you haven't done it, it's not military affiliated, but that was the very first thing I did by chance, honestly, and one of the best things I did. Really got me into the mindset for the civilian world, as well as really getting a grasp on the networking piece with LinkedIn and getting out there meeting a bunch of people. So that I would highly recommend anybody transitioning from the service try out the Who You Know network for sure. But then you got your big ones like Veterans to Industry, which is one of the Vets to Industry is one of the biggest ones out there, and they have these giant networking events where you just meet tons of people, and it's outstanding. And they have tons of resources, and I'm going to start volunteering with them here probably next month at the next event. I've already registered with them, and be helping them out, and then you just keep looking and looking, and you turn over one stone, you find 40 more things that you can use to get ahead. So there's a lot out there. It's just a matter of figuring out what's best for you, and that's really the hard part. You got to narrow that down and know what you need.
Yeah, definitely. I know, my journey is a little bit different. I did not retire actually from the military, but I did serve a term. And when I got out, was able to go back to school. So it's a little bit different journey. I didn't jump right from the military into my career. But some of the things that I could have used, right, were um, the resources of the veteran service organizations. I didn't use really anything except the VA. And, I'm like probably many folks who are maybe in our audience who aren't aware of vets to industry, some of the other organizations that are out there, both regionally and nationally, that are there to support and provide, insight, guidance, strategies to get yourself out of the black hole. Um, what we do know is that once you get out of the military, there's going to be some challenges as far as leveraging your experience and being able to translate that to the civilian sector, right? Whether you're going to maybe like a GS type position with the government, or if you're just going to the straight civilian, commercial industry or sectors, that is something that we hear most often. What are some of the things that you're hearing and maybe you're experiencing as far as challenges being in a relatively current transition?
So the biggest thing that I hear from people is probably the same thing that I had, which was, I don't know what I want to do. So trying to figure out what that next job is, what that next step is probably the number one thing. A big one is where you want to live. For the first time in your career, you get to choose. The military is not telling you where to move to. So you have to figure out where you want to live as a family, if you have a family, or where you want to put down roots and try to retire. So between that and then obviously figuring out what the next step is, what you want to do, once you get those two things down, it becomes, in my opinion, a little bit easier, because then you can start narrowing down your focus. You can use LinkedIn to do those targeted searches for people, try to find those recruiters that you need to talk to, start trying to set up those mock interviews or real interviews in specific areas. And that just makes life, to me, a lot easier once you get that figured out.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. What we see very often in the network is that people, they just need a starting point. And so, there's projects and there's tasks, right? And so some of you may be familiar with this concept of projects versus tasks, but when people are getting ready to separate, or you're in a career transition, maybe as a veteran, the project of getting landed to your next position may seem insurmountable, right? It may seem that you've got all of these things going on, and you just need help on a starting point. Where should I start? Is it LinkedIn? Is it my resume? Is it, interviewing skills? Like, what do I need? And so, that's what we're here for to help with as well, and what our guests are going to talk about too. But projects versus task. If you have a big let's use an example. Let's use an example of, you've got your garage, and your garage is just full of junk, right? And you're going and getting ready to clean your garage, and it just stuff's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Well, it may seem like an insurmountable task. Like, this is going to take me days
Oh, yeah.
to get through this. But you've got to get started. Well, what's the first thing that you really probably need to do? Well, if you have room for your car and your car is in your garage, that's the first task of the project is, I got to get in my car and get my car out of the garage, back it out, and get some space so I can start organizing things. So that's step one, task one. And then task two is, I got to start pulling stuff out of my garage so I can organize it. And as you get started, right, and let's relate that to career transition, pick one of the things that you absolutely know you're going to need, like your resume. I got to get started. I got to get started either building a resume, or I got to get started editing and brushing up and polishing my resume. In those cases, that's your first task, right? Getting started on that, and then you can move on to the next task in that project of getting landed. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely true. Everybody should start with the transition assistance program. Each branch has a version of it, and there's certain mandatory classes you have to do, and then there's a bunch of voluntary classes you can do. After 20 years in the military, I told them I wanted every class, because I want to know what options are out there. So that, to me, that's back in the car out of the garage. You have to do your TAP program. The second piece, to me, is the USO program. Their USO Pathfinder program starts linking you up with specific resources like Hiring Heroes USA that specializes in helping build a resume. So you provide them a draft and they start going back and forth with you to work that out. So they hone in on those specific skills that you're going to need. There's some interview stuff. If you want to be an entrepreneur, they'll link you up with certain agencies, and they go through that very systematically. So those would be the first two steps, in my opinion. And then, of course, you got a million resources just absolutely drinking from the water or the fire hose once you start looking around for the VSOs that you can participate in and learn from.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. Tell us a little bit more about, let's go into a little bit more about us, right? Family man, right? Both of us are family men. I've got three young boys. I actually served from 95 to 99. So I've been out for quite some time. Actually, most of my friends and buddies who I served with are retiring. You know, E8s, E9s, they're all retiring right now. So in their mid 40s, ready to start their new careers, or if they are, in some cases, already have. Seems crazy, right? That it's been 20 plus years since I've been in. Certainly doesn't feel that long, but live here in the DFW, Dallas Fort Worth area. That's where I'm at. North Dallas, and I served at Lackland Air Force Base down in San Antonio. So stayed in Texas my whole time. Part of the reason I joined, I'm actually from Illinois, and I thought, hey, I'll join the service, get in the Air Force. I can go to Korea, I can go to Italy, I can go to Germany, I can go to the Azores, wherever, right? And I went to Lackland for training, Wichita Falls for my technical training in tech school, and then got stationed permanent party right back down at Lackland Air Force Base, Wilford Hall Medical Center. So in other words, got stuck in Texas. Certainly a lot worse places to be, I think, than San Antonio and Texas. But that's my service background, my service history. Have been a member of the VFW, have been a member of the Legion. Try to stay active, help with Wreaths Across America. We're actually going to have our local representative on a future show with us who organizes our Wreaths Across America.
Yes.
And Carry the Load, too, which just happened. He does both of those. But I'm very passionate. I'm very patriotic. I actually wasn't even born here. I wasn't even born in the United States. I was actually born in South Korea, but I'm adopted. So I was adopted at 5 months old, grew up in Illinois, have just loved the opportunity in being an American. I bleed red, white, and blue. As you can see, with my shirt, I'm very patriotic, and I just consider it an honor to be in good company with you all. So that's a little bit more about me. How about you? How did you get started? What was your military? Has your military career been like?
So I was a slow learner. My dad was career Navy, so grew up in the military. Never had anything against it. Just wasn't necessarily going to go that route. I used to manage one of the old Sam Goody music stores, and you got to be a little older to remember those. But I was opening my store when 9/11 happened, and it was soon after that I realized I probably need to do something else, maybe something a little bit more important. So wound up going the Army route, and I've had a pretty good career as far as promotion purposes and where we've lived. We've been able to live in Europe and in Korea, so
you did get to travel.
yeah. I didn't get stuck in just one spot, but I have been to San Antonio, and I used to go to the medical facility at Lackland. But I was up at Fort Sam. I actually loved the Sam Houston area, the San Antonio area. But we spent the last 5 years in Korea, getting to get involved with the community there and get to know people, and just had a pretty amazing time there. And then came back here and decided it was time to call it an end and move on to the next thing. Like you, married. My wife is a naturalized citizen. She was originally born in the Philippines, and her level of patriotism is just phenomenal. There's so many things that Americans take for granted. I think that, if you're naturalized, there is a passion that is absolutely amazing, and it really moves you. So, and we got 2 boys. I don't know that either are going to go in the military. We'll see what happens, but one getting ready to become a senior, Well, I guess he is technically a senior now. He just finished school Friday, so and the next one be knocking on the door 13 this year, so we get to have that fun uh,
Yeah.
coming forward.
Yeah. 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 I too, I mean, I would love and, really would be excited if my boys. I have three boys. They're 7, 5, and 3 right now, so they're quite a bit younger. But would love if they'd like to serve the country. I mean, I brought up being patriotic and everything because there's a lot of people that they take what we have for granted. They take the ability to voluntarily serve and take part right in this community, and I cherish that. Right, I feel very blessed that I've been able to have the experience, and I would do it all over again. I would certainly certainly go back and do the exact same thing. I wouldn't change things. So um,
Maybe go to Randolph instead.
yeah, maybe try a little harder to get stationed somewhere. I actually did work for his 2-star general, and I didn't leverage that very well because he might have been able to get me some orders somewhere, but I just didn't think about it at the time. And I was, by that time I was 3 years into my service, and was happy in San Antonio. So um, what do you think as far as future guests for this show, future things that you'd like to see in this show, so you can let our listener audience know?
I'm really excited about the idea of bringing on the people that are involved in the veteran support organizations and community. There are so many amazing people that I have met through my transition, and all of them have a great story, and they love the veteran community. They're all about giving back to it. So I'm really looking forward to that piece, bringing on those key individuals and then letting them talk about the different organizations that they're involved with. I mean, there's no doubt we're going to have a ton of people that have probably volunteered with Veterati or Vets to Industry because they have a huge pool of people that volunteer with them. So you're going to see those organizations pop up probably a lot. But we're also hopefully going to land some people that are doing more regional things.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the ones that don't get that national exposure, but are doing great things in their state or region or even community. So I'm really looking forward to just hearing the different stories, maybe connecting some people that could help each other, and just continuing to try to have a positive impact for the veteran community and really, help us continue to excel because my dad retired over 20 years ago. And speaking of which, like I said, I joined late. So I joined at 28. My 30-year high school reunion's next year. So when I figured that out, it made me feel old. But my dad, he's been retired over 20 years, and he's amazed at the resources that I'm talking about. So they just didn't exist back then, and they're just going to continue to get better. So it's very exciting to see that, hopefully we can highlight some great people and things and help some people along the way to find that right resource for them.
Yes, and I think you're right. I mean, there's national organizations, there's regional, but the resources that are out there are immense. And that may be, not part of the problem, but part of the difficulty is, where do I plug in? Right back to that project and task. Like, where do I start with these organizations? Which one do I pick? What's available, right? Which is the best? And so, I don't want to say any are better than the others. They're all great. But that's part of our goal here. Some of the other things, just in closing, that we're going to be bringing to you guys in this show is we're going to bring a few tips. We're going to have a job seeker tip. We're going to have some landing. So we want you to share. So if you are out processing, or if you are already a veteran and in the civilian sector and in career transition, a family or spouse, I would like to hear. So Sean and I would love to hear your testimony. If you've landed, let us know. If there's something that we have brought to the table that has made an impact in your search and help you get landed, let us know that too. We definitely want all of that information, all of that testimonial. And then it's all about paying it forward. So if you want, when you're posting in this segment here, hashtag pay it forward, because that's what it's all about. Making sure that we are giving back to the community and bringing as much information and resources to you all as possible and to each other, right? Helping each other out, lending a hand, lifting each other up, right? Bootstrapping it. right? All right,
Absolutely.
so we are getting here towards the end of our first segment. Again, this is our introduction of the show. We want to make sure that you guys understand what is going on. Um, in the future as well, we're going to have some giveaways. So one of the things that we can do is we can start doing some giveaways. We'll be getting those from our guests. So there's incentive. There's going to be some incentive for you guys to watch and stay tuned and to catch the future episodes. So make sure that you are sharing the post. Make sure that you are, more importantly than sharing, tagging those that you think could benefit from our show, from the information and the resources that we're going to be bringing out and moving forward with. So for the time being, we're going to conclude right now with our first segment. We are going to put things on pause. I'm going to put a timer on, give us about 10 minutes, and we will rejoin with our first guest, Mr. Alfredo Torres, getting ready and coming up here in a minute. All right. Welcome back to the Vet S.O.S show brought to you by the Who You Know Network, where what you know is important, but who you know can make all the difference in your job search. So we are back. We are here live joining you with our first special guest. Let me call him up here. He is here. Oh, he just popped out, but as he's coming back in, let me give you a little bit of his background. Mr. Alfredo Torres is with us. So Alfredo Torres is the Virginia V3 transition regional coordinator for the Central and Western region and candidate coordinator for the Higher Vets Now Fellowship Program, the first DoD approved state skill bridge program. He's got experience in professional military, educational career coaching, mentoring, and counseling. And he's a 13-year Navy veteran who has a very eclectic and varied post-military career, holding positions as a radio personality. So we got a radio guy with us here. He's going to sound great, I'm sure. An EMT, an academic advisor, safety inspector, blogger, military admissions advisor, shipboard instructor, adjunct professor. Oh my goodness, I'm running out of breath here. Podcast host, stage manager, and a stage manager for a nationally known concert venue in Richmond, Virginia. Welcome, Mr. Alfredo Torres. You are live with us. Let's get him joined in and hear his story. So, Alfredo, can you hear us? Are you there? Mr. Alfredo. Oh, here he is. He's popped in with us. Hey, Mr. Alfredo, how are you? Can you hear us?
We are having a technical day, aren't we?
Looks like we're having a great technical day today. So, Mr. Alfredo, are you with us? Can you hear us? All right. Well, let's see. Can you hear us? Okay, he says he's logging out and going to come back in, so he'll be joining us shortly. Thank you for joining us. If you are watching the show, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to pair your channels. We are here bringing you a lifeline for your transition. So we want to make sure that we are bringing you the resources that you need to make it through your next career transition, whether it's from active duty to the civilian sector, or if you're a veteran just moving from one job to the other, one career to the other, we have the resources for you. So as we're trying to get Mr. Alfredo Torres back in here, looks like he's coming back in here in just a second. Let's hear more from him, and let's see if he can join. Alfredo, can you hear us? Are you getting audio at least? Sounds like he is breaking up. Hey, we are here live. This is our first show, our first guest of the series, of the season. So we're running into some technical difficulty, but that's to be expected. And let's see. Okay, here we go. Alfredo, Mr. Torres, can you hear us? Yeah, we're still not getting audio. In your audio settings, you can choose. There's some audio settings down at the bottom there that you may be able to choose which microphone, which audio device you're using. While he is coming in here, again, a little bit more on him. The Virginia V3 transition is through the state program, and he is the Central Western Region coordinator. Higher Vets Now is something that he has done and he is currently involved in. So we want to talk a little bit more about that again when we get some audio. Sean, how did you get connected with Alfredo?
Oh, Alfredo. That's on that long list of things, though, there's still more. He is also the new vice president for Vets Industry, doing amazing things there in that community. And, of course, I first recognized him as being Mr. Paisley. That's really what caught my eye. Every Friday, he'd do his Paisley post with his shirt or tie or what have you. And I caught my eye through there because I don't live in Virginia, but somehow started following him on LinkedIn. And honestly, the Paisley piece is the part that got me first. And then from there, you just learn how much he's into because he runs a Sunday chat. He also does his transition debacle, which is a amazing LinkedIn Live event. Feel free to cut us off Alfredo, as soon as you can get the audio going. One of these times we're going to get them.
Yeah, we'll get them in. And for those of you that are here watching with us and joined us, due to the technical difficulties, if we can't get audio going, we will certainly have Mr. Torres back, and we'll definitely get him in. We'll have to make sure that everything's working as far as getting it set up in advance. For those of you that have joined us recently, or if you have not yet, let us know where you're tuning in from, what you're looking for, what position you're looking for if you are out processing or in a career transition, and if you're still active duty, where you're serving and what branch you're in. So let us know in the chat and in the comments. I see a lot of the folks that have commented have joined us from Air Force bases. So I too, as a Air Force veteran, love seeing that. Sorry, Sean. Looks like we've got the majority, at least, engaged in the chat are active duty Air Force. So
I don't know. I see Fort Meade, Fort Drum.
I do see that.
Fort Stewart out there. So.
Yes, welcome. Dion, give some shout outs. Dion, Joshua Eisenman. We've got Seth Harrison joining. We've got Trevor Houston. Hey, Trevor Houston. We've got Holly Gorton, also part of the Who You Know Network. And we've got Gene Burgos. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right. And we actually do have somebody paired. So, again, while we're waiting for Alfredo with some audio, you can pair your channels. So if you sign in or schedule the event through your invite or through the LinkedIn event or Facebook, wherever you're joining in from, you can pair your channels using those links with the pairing. So you can actually feed this out to your network. And if you are interested, put hashtag paired in the chat, and we can also get you more information and support on that for the future shows.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Oh, hey,
we can
hear you. Success.
You guys are still breaking up, but at least you can hear me, I hope.
Yeah, yes. We can hear you. It's a little bit low. I've pumped your volume all the way up here. So, but yes, welcome, Mr. Torres. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your service as well. As we've gone through your bio already and let folks know where you're coming from, what you've done. Can you tell us a little bit more about why you're passionate about helping active and prior service members? What brought you into this this career field that you're currently involved with helping folks in their transitions?
Okay, so you guys are breaking up. So I'm guessing what you said was you wanted me to tell you a little bit more about what my career or what I do now.
Yes.
Now, okay, great. So what I do now is I do several things. I do the I work for the Virginia Department of Veteran Services. So that's my main job, is helping people as they transition. I also help, I also am the candidate coordinator for the Higher Vets Now Fellowship Program. That's the first statewide DoD Skill Bridge approved program. So we do stuff throughout the state. And that's a lot. I also I'm the vice president of Vets to Industry. It's an incredible group of over 70K people who veterans, resource managers, recruiters, all kinds of people who are out there tied to the military community in some way, shape, or form. So those are the three big things. Then, of course, I do a lot of posting on LinkedIn, a lot of stuff that deals with mental health, deals with transition. And I can tie anything into transition, anything. So I use a lot of metaphors and a lot of analogies so that people can start to figure out stuff that I'm talking about.
Yeah. Do you have an example? One of the analogies that you like to use?
Oh, sure. The most popular one is transitions like a buffet. You walk into a buffet. Yeah, I know it's everybody knows what a buffet is, but you walk into a buffet and there's all of this food and it's all amazing and you want to eat it all, but you're not. You're gonna take what makes the most sense for you, right? So they got 4 or 5 different types of meat. You're gonna take the pork. That's what I'm gonna take because I'm in a pork chop kind of mood, right? And then they've got different types of starches. Well, if I have pork chops, I'm gonna get mashed potatoes and gravy, right? And then some vegetables. So I'll sit there and maybe I'll take some peas and carrots, right? All this other great food that was there, but I didn't take it because I wasn't in the mood for it. Didn't make sense with the stuff that I was doing. I sit down and eat. Now, that equates to I've transitioned successfully. You see, because what's going to happen is everybody here, you guys, me, anybody who you can name, has their own way of transitioning. We all have our advice, and none of it, excuse me, none of it is wrong because we've all helped people transition. So then who's right and who's wrong? We're all right and we're all wrong. What it comes down to is transitioning service member picking and choosing bits and pieces of information from all of us so that they can tie it into their transition, because nobody's transition is the same.
That's right. That's right. And, we say the same thing in the network, right? With career transition folks is it's like the resume, right? You're going to get 20 different opinions on how your resume should be, and they're all going to be different, and all of them are right and all of them are wrong, because the only thing that matters is what's going to work for you, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Absolutely. 100% affirmative.
And at some point in your transition, you got to stop looking for more answers. We call it drowning in the sea of goodwill. Okay. There's so much out there and so many people who do things so many different ways that you end up being the squirrel in the road. You don't go back, you don't go forward, so you get run over because you're paralyzed. So that's another analogy, by the way. So it's at some point it's good enough.
Yeah.
Your resume is good enough. Your interview techniques are good enough. And you got to go forward and you got to do it and not be scared to do it.
I completely agree with you. The overwhelming amount of information that is out there and just drinking from the fire hose, that was probably the first hurdle. Like those first 4 or 5 months I seriously got involved with it, there was just way too much. You couldn't even do everything. So once you get to that step where you can start crossing things off, saying, I love it, but I don't need that one. I don't need that one. I think it is when you start to get your head above water and can actually move forward. And I think you bring up a great point that everybody's right and everybody's wrong, because it comes down to the individual transitioning. Something's going to work for them, but not for somebody else. I think that's a great point.
Exactly.
Can you tell us a little bit more about who your organization helps? Do you have to be in Virginia to get some help from the organization? Can you be, out processing from around the country, around the globe?
Okay. So let me start it this way. I always got to take it to the very, very beginning, because when I start talking about my stuff, people are like, what the hell are you saying? So it's like this. Everybody gets 2 sets of benefits. They get their federal benefits. We all know that. GI Bill, guaranteed home loan, disability is actually a federal benefit. We get all that, right? But then you get state. And those benefits, those state benefits vary from state to state. So a lot of people don't realize it. So it's one of those things where you leave money on the table if you're not following up with your state benefits. I work for the Virginia Department of Veteran Services. They're the gatekeepers to the benefits that a service member or military spouse in Virginia. Now that breaks into a whole bunch of different things, including help with filing for your disability, mental counseling, the Skill Bridge program that we have, which is what we do, connections and networking to what we call V3 companies, Virginia Values Veterans, a state certification that companies can earn by going through training to certify them as veteran friendly. So we got a lot of other stuff. It's all you got to do is go to for the Virginia Department of Veteran Services, Google Virginia Department of Veteran Services. But for anybody's state, just go to your state government webpage, and then you're going to look up whatever the state is, Veteran Services, Veteran Affairs. It could be under any different name. Texas is that word veteran should be in there.
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit more about the V3 program? Those companies
Sure.
that are getting certified, right? You said that they're going through a program, a qualification perhaps to get entry into that program. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So the V3 program, currently, as far as I know, is the only program in the country like it, as far as I know, and it's a program where companies will go through certain training, and they will commit to hiring X amount of veterans based on their size, and then that will allow them to participate in on-base networking and hiring fairs. It lets them participate in our Skill Bridge program, but they got to go through the training before they can do any of that. We want to make sure that they're committed to helping our transitioning service members and our veterans and our military spouses. Mm-hmm. And the goal is to keep them, for everybody to stay in Virginia, because that's what we want.
Yeah, absolutely. So these companies, right? There have been times where veterans they're honored, they're cherished, right? They're supported. There are other times where veterans don't get maybe as much of a recognition for their contribution, right? And maybe not valued by these companies as much. They're just not getting. They're just not getting the support by the companies, and it seems that there's at times a shift. Companies are veteran and prior service member focused. At times they're not. What do you see right now? Are companies very receptive, and you're getting a lot of opportunity with these companies, or has it been a challenge?
I couldn't understand you. You were breaking up.
Okay. Are the companies engaged, or is it a challenge getting companies to that point?
No, a good chunk of the companies are engaged. It's like anything else. You're going to have people who are active, and you're going to have people who just want the certification.
Uh-oh. We lost Alfredo again. We're going to have to work on these connections. Work on these connections. One of the things that I had asked him was that there is, and Sean, hopefully you heard that too, but it seems that it waxes and wanes as far as focus on engaging with the veteran and active duty community that's out processing and getting ready to join the civilian sector. What are you seeing, Sean? Have you seen that there's been receptiveness by companies that are involved in these programs?
Oh yeah, I think it's huge right now. The military is definitely in real good favor. So the transition piece, the number of resources we have and companies that are willing to work with us through different internships and what have you, it's just amazing. Complete support. It's really refreshing.
Yeah. I would agree. I think that as far as what I've seen, there's a lot more companies that are receptive to veteran and prior service focused initiatives for hiring in their companies. Um, there's organizations, VSOs, that are involved in, just like Alfredo is doing, just educating, right? CEOs, company leaders, hiring managers on the value of the veteran network, right? And then the prior service network, and what they bring to the table, and how to engage and how to hire those folks, right? And make sure that they're successful. Um, so the companies, Alfredo, that's what we were talking about. Do you feel like they're receptive? Oh, we lost audio again. We lost audio again. Uh-oh. Hang with us, guys. This again is our first show, and so it is definitely a learning curve. Let's go to the audience while we're waiting on Alfredo with some more audio here. We've got Dion Myers. I want to bring this comment up, and Alfredo, hopefully you can see this, but here's a comment from Dion Myers. And so just a testimony to what Alfredo's doing. And here we go. Here we got some audio here. Hey, there we go. Oh, that's much better. That is much better. Here,
I decided. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, I had to go on the phone. So, of course, now this really gets to be fun.
We got you. Hey, we can hear you. Audio is better and video is better. So I just pulled up Dion Myers, his comment here. I don't know if you remember Dion, but looks like you guys are connected, and one of the first connections, right, that he'd had when he started his transition. So thank you for sharing that, Dion.
Did he say that I did good?
Yeah. He said one of the first connections over a year ago when he started his transition, and that you're great to connect with. So we were talking about, and I'd like to hear a little bit more about the companies, right? The companies that are involved with the V3 program. At times companies have found it very difficult to engage with the veteran community and with prior service or active duty members out processing. Where do you think that current climate is with companies right now?
Companies always going to complain. That's really what it comes down to, because here's the problem. Companies will always, and again, this is my opinion. I'm not speaking for anybody, but companies, what it comes down to is resources. You want to, if you want to hire veterans, transitioning service members, military spouses, you have to dedicate the people to engage in those communities. And a lot of companies don't have the bandwidth, or don't go and utilize people who know that space.
So it's really just, I think, an education and an awareness issue, right? I mean, awareness of the problem and education on how to overcome that problem, how to bridge that gap, right? For not only the people that are searching for their jobs, but also for the companies who are looking to hire them. There's I know of 2 or 3 other organizations that are involved with training CEOs, presidents, leaders, owners of companies. So that's great that V3 is involved with that as well, because I think that there's still quite a bit lacking in that space, right?
Oh yeah, here's another problem, is we're not speaking the same language, right? And depending on who you're talking to and what numbers you believe, anywhere from 3 to 7% of the population has served. That means 93 to 97% of the population has not served, right? And even those who serve, we don't speak the same language. I was in the Navy. I go to the head. If you're in the Army, you go to the latrine. If you're 93 to 97% of the population, you go to the bathroom. So who needs to learn what? You know, if we don't learn to speak their language, we end up going on ourselves.
Yeah.
I,
So,
I was raised by a Navy person, so I still use the term head, and nobody in the Army knows what I'm talking about. It's
yeah,
absolutely
right. So you know, an '06 for an Army guy is a colonel, an '06 for me is a captain. A captain for an Army guy is an '03, and '03 for me is a lieutenant. So we don't speak the same language. So we expect civilians to learn our lingo. Um, you know, it'd be nice if they did, and this is one of the reasons that if they're serious, they'll have a military recruiter or military HR, and it's going to be a veteran. So there's somebody that at least has a clue about the language, because as you guys know, somebody who did 20 years, you don't even need to do 20 years. I did 13 and I'm jacked up. You know, somebody who did 4 years, they've learned a whole new language. And so you're not going to turn around and speak civilian.
Yeah, most
You know?
definitely.
So,
Now, you had mentioned, and I want to touch upon this, and maybe we can go into a little bit more extended due to some of the audio issues that we had. But one of the questions I had is, there's a lot. This is a big buzz, right? And it's for good reason. There's a lot of mental health, right?
mm-hmm.
Awareness right now in the veteran and military community. Lots of resources, lots of support through the VA and otherwise, right? But we do know that even if you're not in the military, even if you're just, Joe Smith on the street and you get laid off and transition, right, and are in a career transition,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of emotion, a lot of things going on mentally. Depression, is often a big issue, can be a big issue.
Sure.
We know that that's exacerbated for a lot of the military community, right?
Sure.
How could somebody stay encouraged, right? Stay mentally healthy and continue to fight the good fight?
I'll tell you what I did, okay? Because I was one of those guys who had a horrible transition. Okay, first thing is we got to realize is that we're fed a story in the military. And you guys tell me if this resonates with you. Do your 20, get your MBA, get your PMP, get out, get the contractor job or the GS-13 job, retire on Friday, show up to work on Monday.
Yep.
Does that sound familiar to you guys?
Absolutely heard that one.
Right. Here's the thing. Who says that you have to do that? And so people get caught up in this line that we're fed, and by the way, we're fed that by active duty people. Never take advice from somebody who's still in uniform. They don't understand the significance of the transition until they are actually transitioning themselves.
Absolutely.
So we get this, and now we get ready to transition. We think that transitioning means getting a job, and there's more to it than that. We go to TAP, and for 3 to 5 days, I don't even know how long it is anymore. It was 5 days when I went. And you get paper after paper after paper after booklet after booklet after pamphlet after guest speaker after guest speaker. And it's easy to get overwhelmed. So the way to start, in my opinion, is admitting you don't know anything. Finding out what you really want to do.
Yep.
And then go do that. Give yourself permission. Give yourself permission to say, you know what? I don't know it all. You know what? I got to talk to somebody. Give yourself permission to say, I'm scared. You're about to lose your identity. If you were 18 and you did 4 years, you're 22, you've known nothing but the military. If you were 18 and you did 20 years, you're 38, you've known nothing but the military. Okay? So start to admit that you're going to lose your identity. You're no longer going to be an infantryman or a bosun's mate or a pilot or a submarine captain or a colonel or a sergeant. That's all gone.
Right.
And once you start to grasp that you are not your military identity, the military is a part of your identity, not all of it, then you can start to mentally be prepared for that life outside.
That's valuable. Yeah. And I think that for some folks, right, they're 20 plus, right? They're 30 plus years perhaps in the service before they retire. But if you think back to where you started, right? What do they do? What do they do in boot, right? Or basic or whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
Right.
They teach you how to be Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine. They indoctrinate you into this culture. And then if you're lucky, you get 20 hours. You spend 16 weeks. I spent 16 weeks learning how to be a sailor. I got less than 20 hours learning how to be a civilian.
That's right.
Absolutely.
After 13 years.
But I guess my point is as well, though, that when you are losing that identity after how many ever years, right? Maybe it's less than 20. Maybe you're not retiring. Maybe you are retiring.
Right.
You're losing your identity. So in essence, you've already gone through this once, and it was forced down your throat, right? In training, in entry, right, to the military. So if you can think back to that, if you are going through a transition, think back to that. And in essence, you're just replaying that in reverse. You're losing that identity and you're becoming this new person, right, as a civilian.
But here's the difference, if you don't mind me telling you that.
Yeah.
When you were learning how to be military, it was reinforced by punishment. Okay, that you learn how to dress. If you didn't, I'll give you an example: folding clothes. You learn how to fold your clothes the way they want you, and if you don't fold it that way, you did push-ups until you cried. I've been out 17 years. I still fold my shirts the way I learned it in boot camp in '92.
Absolutely.
Okay, so there's that negative reinforcement, to really dig it in there. But when you're getting out, nobody tells you. First of all, there's no reinforcement, positive or negative. But the thing is, as you're in boot camp, and even officers who went to ROTC or went to the academies, there's an expectation. You're going to learn to do this. You're going to learn to do that. Here is your chain of command. Here's the rank structure. Here are the jobs. These are what the jobs do. This is what we call food. We call it chow. This is what we call the bathroom. We call it the head. This is what we call walls. We call them bulkheads. I learned that. And then I was medically discharged after 13 years. So not only was I losing my identity, and I wasn't ready to, which is another thing, but there was nobody telling me, hey, this is a bathroom. We call this food. And it sounds stupid. It really does, until you realize that I haven't called this food since high school.
Right.
This is chow. I haven't called, I still say, what's the scuttlebutt? And people are like, what the hell are you talking about? What's the word on the street? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's nobody there to tell you that. There's nobody there to tell you, hey, Learn financial literacy. Hey, learn about life insurance.
Yeah, that is definitely a big lacking piece, right? Huge
Sure.
lacking piece for sure.
Right. And so um again, if you're lucky, you get you get 40 hours to learn how to be a civilian. If you're lucky. Most of
Yeah,
us
I
don't
didn't
even
get
get
any.
that.
I
Right.
didn't get any. So I don't know how long TAP has been in place, but I out processed and I got maybe a day of basically out processed. I didn't get much really, if anything. So
Yeah.
uh,
I got I in 2005 I got 20 hours.
yeah, yeah,
Wow.
So I'm right there with you.
yep. Well, we are down to time. Mr. Torres, Alfredo Torres, guys, make sure that you connect with Alfredo. What's the best way to reach out and connect with you? What's your preferred way that folks
Okay.
connect with you? Is it
The quickest
LinkedIn?
yeah, the quickest way to get a hold of me is LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
I check LinkedIn, I don't know, 50 times a day. So you can connect to me that way. If you want to if you're planning to move to Virginia or you live in Virginia, you can email me alfredo.torres at Delta Victor Sierra Virginia spelled out .gov. And if you're interested in the Higher Vets Now Fellowship Program, transition, anything, please reach out to me. Okay, I'm a New Yorker, so I like to say I'm a guy who knows a guy, and I am. I can connect you to everything from service dogs to crisis counseling to second chance companies if you got yourself in trouble. Okay, so if you
Well,
need something, please reach out.
what a great resource you are
Thank
and
you.
continue to be. We want to show you some love. So for the audience, if you are watching, take a screenshot. Take a screenshot of Alfredo right here and tag him in your feed. Post it. Post the show and let him know what a resource and how valuable his information is. Connect with him and make sure you check out the Virginia Department of Veteran Affairs as well as the V3 program.
And also quick shout out to Vets to Industry, an
And that's the industry.
an incredible resource group for those of you who are transitioning out who need people to talk to you who've been through it.
Absolutely, guys. That concludes our first segment here for our first guest, Mr. Alfredo Torres. Make sure you connect with him and don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the Vet SOS Life Preserver. We've got that lifeline for you. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
We're going to take a quick
Come on,
break. I'm
Alfredo.
going to put a timer up and make sure that you stay tuned. Stick with us. We've got our next guest coming up shortly, Matt Scherer.
Oh, We're back.
There we go. We are back. We had some audio difficulties with our first guest, so we're just going to roll right in, cut our break short. We have Mr. Matt Scherer. Hopefully, I am pronouncing your name correctly, Matt. Thank you for joining us. He is I'm going to read his bio real quick, but he is with the Military Transition Roundtable. He's been helping military professionals in a transition deal with the stressors that occur during their passage from a uniform to a new type of life. As the co-founder of the Military Transition Roundtable, he helps some of them through a mastermind group that helps them address transition issues. He's the author for LinkedIn for Military. With his wife, Dr. Jacqueline Scherer, he wrote the LinkedIn for Learners book. So we have those as well. So take a look, check out his books. Again, LinkedIn for Military, your interactive transition networking guide, and also LinkedIn for Learners. So thank you, Matt, for joining us. Appreciate your time here. Love having you here, and can't wait to hear more of your story.
I don't know if you want to hear my story or no. I'm just kidding. I'm glad to be here, guys. And it's good to see you, Sean. Sean, by the way, is one of our acting members in the Military Transition Roundtable. So we speak from experience. I'm probably going to point back a couple of times to Sean and some things that he's done as far as his transition. You know, it's a journey, and he's not over with his journey. One of the things you often hear about transition, it doesn't end when you retire. We have people that we're still working with 5-10 years after their separation retirement date. They're still working on their transition.
Absolutely. Mark, Matt is one of the guys that as soon as I mentioned the idea of doing this podcast, he's like, hey, I'll come on in a heartbeat, you know, and that's what's great about this community. Just everybody's supporting, and, you know, the mastermind classes that we do, and Dion here is in one of our classes as well. I mean, it's just the conversations and what we work through is absolutely amazing. It's a lot of fun and a lot of great information.
So is my friend Dion in the audience right now?
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
Hi, Dion. How's it going, buddy?
He's there. Shout out to Dion. So yeah, we've got
hey, Dion.
We've got several guests in. So yes, he is in the chat. Can you tell us why you're so passionate about helping active duty and prior service members? What got you started?
That's a good question. I think the thing that got me started was that I had a less than stellar time with transition. I was listening to your previous interview with Alfredo, and he was talking about, you know, here's all this information, you got to deal with it. And so I really wanted to help people with their transition. Now, if you talk to my colleague, Don Gleason, he had a plan. He did everything in his power to optimize his transition, but he would be the first to tell you that he had a group of mentors and networks. So I'm very passionate about helping people find a network. And of course, I believe LinkedIn is one of those tools for helping people find mentors in that network. But it's great that Don and I are together because we bring a different perspective to the whole transition thing. And sometimes we disagree, but I think you would, if you were to talk to us, we're in agreement about 96% of what we want to accomplish, which is help the average military professional in transition make a smooth and easy transition.
So can you tell us a little bit more about Military Transition Roundtable? What's involved? Really?
Absolutely. So the Military Transition Roundtable is based on the mastermind concept. The mastermind concept is over 150 years old. It was popular at the turn of the 20th century when people like Thomas Edison and Henry Ford would get together with other people that they trust and they liked, and they would talk about common issues. And usually there was someone in that organization or that group that faced similar issues, and they say, well, you know, Henry, you have this problem with this. This is what I would suggest. And so that's the power of the mastermind. And now what we're looking at with the power of our mastermind is what are the issues people are facing in transition? And one of the things I've heard just in the last couple of days is, well, I really don't understand the VA process. Well, there are people in our organization, in our groups, that have already faced similar issues with the VA. So it's like, well, this is what you ought to know. These are the things that I found. It's not to say that yours is going to be the same, but at least you know someone's already walked down that path, and you feel comfortable knowing that you're not the only guy with that issue.
Yeah. So what are some of the things I think if you could pinpoint maybe one or two things, what's the most impactful thing that you guys are teaching or sharing that has helped folks so far?
I think the biggest thing we have helped people with, and Don is probably the bigger expert on this, is how to negotiate the job, how to negotiate the salary. And we've had several times within our groups where someone said, well, I've been offered this job, but they factored in my military retirement, so they offered me $15,000 less than what I was worth. People would say, no, you don't want that job. And so we give people the courage to look at the offer. We give courage to look at the environment. We help people factor in those intangibles that go with that new job. In the military, they tell you, you're going here and you're going there, right? Sometimes you get a little choice. Sometimes you understand how to,
how to work the system.
I know how to work. Yeah. And sometimes the system recognizes your talents and says, we need you here. But guess what? When you retire or separate or depart the military, that is no longer the case. You get to pick. And that's sometimes a very difficult choice for most military professionals, how to make that informed choice. So I think that's one of the things we do very well. Now, if I could, I'd like to talk about the second thing, and this is my strong point, and that's the LinkedIn profile. And it's one thing to get a great LinkedIn profile, but it's another to actually use it in a way that helps people or lets people know your story. And so I tell you, truthfully, even though he's interviewing, I still would say it. He's done a great job, Sean Welsh. Sean Welsh is one of those stars of the Military Transition Roundtable and the LinkedIn program. He is actually a star, okay? And what Sean does very well is that when he connects with people, he helps others, okay? It's not about getting information. It's how can I help people? That's one of the biggest things that I find is, number one, fear of connecting with others. And number two, the skill set. Sean does a great job, wouldn't you say, John, of helping others or finding things that you can help them. For example, I know Sean is a Boy Scout leader, and maybe he's going to help another Boy Scout leader say, well, guess what? I find that this place, go camping is great. Or if you're down this way, here's some things. So it's always that looking for those opportunities to help others.
Yeah, most definitely. As a matter of fact, we've got a lot of community members at corporations in the civilian sector. Want to give a shout out, Suzanne Carter. Actually, she's on right now. She's a finance recruiter at Boeing, and they're hiring top talent. So they're seeking those with active secret clearances. So make sure if you are not connected with her, she's in the chat in LinkedIn, Suzanne Carter. She's hiring at Boeing. So great opportunity there. Thank you for sharing, Suzanne.
So there's an interesting concept that I think I would like to hear Matt talk a little bit more about. And that is, one, how many of these cohorts do you have in the Military Transition Roundtable? And I'd love for you to tell us more about the one you're now doing overseas, which I think is phenomenal for that population.
Well, thank you for asking that question, Sean. Currently, we have 6 groups. Okay, we have 3 on Thursday. We have 3 on Tuesday. Now, the way it works on Tuesday, we have 7 o'clock and 10 o'clock. Those are general groups like the one you're in, Sean. And then at 11:30, we have one for entrepreneurs. So that's an entrepreneur track. So we do things a little differently there. Right now, we're going over the E-Myth revisited as part of our discussions. So we're always looking at this different purpose a little bit. Same thing, still got the mastermind concept going, but it's more for the entrepreneurs. And, that's a growing trend in the military. And then the groups on Thursday, we started the 4 o'clock group, right, with the hopes that it would reach the people in the Far East, but we have found that the time is not right. We do have 1 or 2 people that have joined us from the Far East. We've asked the people in the military transition, program, the transition assistance program, to help us. And, I love them. They do good work, but they're their focus is making sure they clear everybody and they check those boxes, and everybody dots their I's and cross their T's when they go through transition. And so we thought we'd have something, but it didn't work out. We've got another event we're going to do again, where we're going to invite people from the Far East. And if you know of people from the Far East, please let us know. We know that when there's a will, there's a way that you can work through your schedule. We are trying to find a time that accommodates them. And so that's that 4:00 group. I think we're probably going to move it to 5:30. We're going to discuss it some more in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll probably either add another group or we're going to switch the 4:00 to 5:30. But guess what? That 4:00 time zone works for a lot of people on the East Coast. And they said, yeah, we'd like to be part of it, because we'd hate to sit there with one person when we have a group of 6 to 8 people, which we now have in that group. And it's really worked. So it takes time to build a group, and it takes time to do that. Now, going back to the Tuesday group, we found that 10:00 time zone is perfect for people in Europe. So they can come at 5:00, 6:00, depending on which part of the time zone you're in. So that's kind of how that works. So we are now, I can truthfully say, we have people from Ramstein, Germany to Seoul, Korea.
Nice.
That's awesome.
We'd like to add more, but it's just an ongoing word of mouth campaign. And for me to have the opportunity to talk to you today on this is very, very helpful, because we want to let more people know about this. So can I ask a quick question, technical question? I didn't get this. This is live, I recognize, but is it also going to be recorded for future dissemination?
Yes, it is. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah,
okay.
and as a matter of fact, for you and for the viewer audience, we're going to clean this up, polish each episode up.
Right.
So
Okay.
you're going to have your own episode for this that will be re-released in the subsequent weeks, and you'll be able to market that and share it, and it'll be in perpetuity. So
well, I appreciate that, and you know that I will mention and use my growing number of connections. I have 11,000 of them right now. I will definitely, but I've worked at it, and I know I've worked with you, Sean, on what's a quality connection over a quantity connection. So many people want to get quantity. So no, slow down. Quality connections are the way to go.
Absolutely.
Yep. How instrumental has LinkedIn been for maybe some of your success stories?
You got to look at a couple people. Let me start with Jeff Carter, who's one of our original students. Jeff was the mission support commander, or I would say base commander. He says he's the executive agent at Randolph Air Force Base. He was also the commander of 3 security police squadrons. Well, how successful was? Number one, he found a job, but he found the right job. If you were to talk to Jeff, he would tell you, no, I do not want to be another security commander. I do not want to get that 2:00 phone call in the morning from someone saying, hey, you got a problem here. And so we helped him define it. He has a job. He's now with Amazon Web Services. Another guy, also a Air Force senior officer, security type, he did the resume. It's okay, look, stop that. Let us build your profile. Now, build that profile. Now start reaching out to people, interacting with others. He had 3 offers within a week. So those are the typical success stories we get. I could probably look back at some others, but those are the 2 that really stand out. So,
fantastic.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurial side, right? You had mentioned that's one of the group's main primary focuses.
Yes.
Do you see a lot of members more receptive? And we've seen this actually in the civilian sector with the Great Resignation, right? But there seems to be a lot more opportunity for business ownership, franchising. Do you see a lot of military members going that direction?
I do, and I think the thing that we do in our mastermind group is help them make an informed choice about what's right for them, because one franchise does not fit all, and we help them look at what are the resources out there, who should you talk to, who is in our network that can help you as well. So yes, the resources are there, and some people want to be their own boss, but you got to look at it also and be honest. Well, if I'm my own boss, that means I'm paying everybody's salary, and when things aren't going well financially, guess what? I own that process, so that's something to think about.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely.
Matt, you brought up something interesting, and Mark, I think this is something that we could probably examine with just about every guest. But you said you weren't really getting the help that you were hoping to get over in like Korea or whatever when you're trying to expand overseas.
Right.
The government, from my understanding so far in talking with people who run organizations like MTR, is that the government's really set to their government programs. And I've had several people ask me, how come more veterans don't know about all these organizations that are out there? Is there a way, or are we making progress in the government supporting the nonprofits that are out there trying to help veterans as well?
So that's a question that I would say is a mixed bag. So let me tell you a true story. There is a wonderful organization here called the JBSA Transition Alliance. Mm-hmm. They get together once a week and they share information. They also share a calendar. Now, the thought of the executive leadership is that everybody's going to share that calendar and all those events with everybody that's in transition. Not a bad idea, but not an effective one. So I went to this lady 2 years ago. There's a gentleman named Mike Espinoza. Mike and I are now partners with the San Antonio Transition Calendar. Let's build you a calendar. Now, we're going to follow the same rules and guidelines that a commercial newspaper contract would have with a base. Okay, same rules, same guidelines, nothing different. Oh no, we can't do that. It's the legal. We get into the legal thing, but okay. Common sense would tell you that a commander's going to say, wait a minute, he gets what we're trying to do. He understands our limitations, but why is he getting blocked by one of the people on that executive committee? So when I talk to the TAP people, yeah, we love it. We want to do that. And I want to do that. But I think it's just a culture. We got to fit into this box. The Department of Labor has a contract and they have slides, and you got to stay on script with the slides. And it's like one size fits all, and it doesn't really work. So that's we have to change the way we think. Okay, and Sean, I'm going to compliment you. And I don't know you, Mark, very well, but let me say this: Sean's a go-getter, right? Sean's gone out and gotten information. Sean has built a network. Most military guys do not know how to build a network until it's too late.
Yes. Yeah, that's one of the things, and that's a common theme, right? We see that everywhere. One of the things that we're teaching in our, some of the career transition work that we do is to always be networking, right? Because what happens is we get a lot of people that come into, the career transition space and in our network, and we're helping them. Maybe they're prior service, maybe they're just in the civilian sector, and they're all about getting and building their network, getting into and building their network, and then they get landed. And what happens? They ghost, right? They are gone from LinkedIn, right? They're not. They won't even reply to a message, right? A DM, and that's one of the big issues. And we've seen. Think about today's career, right? The average career in the civilian sector. How long are people at a company right now?
If they're
3
lucky.
years or less?
That sounds right. And that's one of the key components that I teach in LinkedIn classes and LinkedIn consultation. Okay, you got the job. Congratulations. Now's the time to become that guy, that expert on LinkedIn for whatever facet that you're working in. If you're an accountant, financial accountant, you want to be that person. If you are logistics, you want to reach out to other logistics people. You want to be known as a thought leader. So when the day comes, and there's a couple of reasons why people leave jobs. One, the environment changed and the new boss is not what you hoped, and you're like, this is not working for me. And so it's like having the wherewithal and the network to help you with that. So a network should not be, I've lost my job, I need your help. Okay. I believe that if you use LinkedIn as I'm always looking for ways to help people, and when I do need some help, then people that have been helped are probably going to come forth and say, "Hey, Mark, how can I help you?"
Absolutely.
Right. And you have to have an answer, right? You have to be able to have an answer too. And that's one of the things I think that in the networking space, the social space, in those aspects of a search, people aren't prepared, right? They're not prepared to help. It's like the old Jerry Maguire, right? Help me, help you, um, right?
Show me the
So
money.
that's right. Show me the money. They don't have a clear, concise answer on how somebody can help them. How
Yeah.
important is that, right? It's paramount.
Well, and the thing of it is, a lot of corporations don't want people to be active on LinkedIn, and this is what I tell them: that person, hey, look, you're not looking for a job, you're looking for answers. The thing about LinkedIn, it's not just to be as a job search tool, but it's a resource tool, a research tool. In today's world, where we're now doing more and more conferences virtually, it's a networking event. The beautiful thing is, well, I went out to an event today for an organization that I'm doing some business with. I'll get a lot more done from the comfort of this computer and this setting to do a workshop. So yes, it's how are you going to be a thought leader? I mean, I would hope you'll have me come back sometime. I could talk just on how to become a thought leader after you get that first job. It is really, really a tool. And if you use it properly, it's going to help you become that person.
Mm-hmm.
That gal, that person, that's the person I want to talk to because she's the expert in this space, or she knows someone who knows someone. It's like your last guest, Alfredo, said, I'm from New York and I know a lot of people. Well, guess what? I know a few people too. And it's like, how do you capitalize on my network?
Yeah. Well, that brings up a great point as well, which is what you know, right? What you know is important.
Mm-hmm.
And also who you know, right? So
Right.
how are you helping people understand that gap, right, between what I know and who you know, and how to leverage both in tandem?
Okay, so let me talk about one of the hidden elements of LinkedIn. For example, LinkedIn does a great job of helping you with the who, right? Who you are, what your skills are. If you say LinkedIn, okay, I'm going to let you create my profile. It's going to create something that tells you who you are, because LinkedIn makes thousands, if not millions of dollars having the capability to help people find talent. That's what they do, and that's how they help it. And they will create something what I call a resume speak kind of profile. What we do and what I do is help people determine the what and the why. Why do I want to do this when I leave the military? What is it about me that would make me compelling to you, the influencer? So if Dion's still out there, what would Dion Hicks say if I reached out and wrote him a connection note? What would he think if I saw my profile?
Yeah, Deanna, I hope you're out there. I know that he has the answer. Definitely, Sean, for your experience, right? Since you're really kind of in the thick of it, if you will, how instrumental has it been, right? Leveraging both in tandem, both what your skill set is, what you know, and who you know.
Well, it's been phenomenal, and to Matt's kind words, a lot of what I've been doing on LinkedIn actually started with Mark and Trevor in the Who You Know Network. That was the first thing I did out of transition. So you guys gave me the motivation, and then getting linked in with MTR, and Matt and I have done a couple one-on-ones. We've talked about my profile. He's helped me flush out a few things there to make it look better, especially the about system. I don't know. I think a lot of military people struggle with writing about themselves. It's the times you get stuck with having to write your own award or your own eval, for me, that's always been the hardest thing. I can write evals and awards all day long for other people, but talking about yourself just for some reason, gets a little harder. So Matt helped me work through that and get that piece ready. And that really helps round out a lot of the profile. So using, what I know, who I know, all within LinkedIn has definitely been beneficial and a lot of fun. I've met some great people, especially in the veteran community, that you immediately have some sort of connection because of what you've done, and then you start to learn what they can actually help you with, or how willing they are to help you. Which most of the people I connect with, they immediately say, "Hey, what can I do for you?" I don't need anything. I just I'd love to learn. I'm following what you're doing. And maybe someday there is something I could use. So just that whole networking piece and really honing in on the LinkedIn and using it the right way, and the searches and things like that, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. So Matt, apply now, right? Your LinkedIn profile as a resume.
No.
Effective or not effective?
No. Okay. Here's the difference between the two, okay? The LinkedIn profile is like an online beacon, working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's there to build influencers, is there to build a network. A resume is a legal document. When you talk to people that are resume experts, and I have, that's a document that says you went to St. Leo's University, you went to this school, or you went to that. And guess what? If the recruiter's serious about you, they're going to pick up the phone and call St. Leo's and say, did Sean Welsh go to school there, and does he have a BBA or whatever? Okay. They're allowed to do that once they give you a resume. The problem with the resume is, again, it goes back to our friends in the transition assistance program. What do they teach? You all have to have a resume before you can graduate from this class. And guess what? You better use it all the time. And then you've got, as Alfredo was talking about before, you've got that barracks lawyer mafia, the transition. Well, you've got to have that resume to find a job. Well, let's go back to something I said about 15 minutes ago about the one colonel who had 100 resumes and didn't get anywhere. But once he got the LinkedIn profile in place, he had job offers. He had people call him and say, hey, I see you're looking for a job, because he used LinkedIn the way it was supposed to be used and not as a resume.
Yeah.
Can I add?
There's a lot of opportunity. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to add one more thing. I absolutely hate my friends, and there's some well-meaning friends in this MTR community that are like, hey, I want to share John's resume or Susie's resume. No. Let's teach John and Susie how to be like Sean and build the network. So yeah, it is really one of my it's one of my pet peeves. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no, yeah, valuable to hear as well. So MTR, the program, just wanted to get a little bit more insight on that, on how to plug in there. Is there a cost? Is it free? How do I get into that program?
Okay. Hey, Sean, can I ask a question? Is Don joining us in a second?
He is.
Okay.
Yeah, he has popped in.
Okay.
He's ready to go, but he's got the next segment. I can bring him in because I know you guys work together. So
why don't we do that? And I'm going to let him. That'd be great.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring us in here, and let's see if we can 4-box it. There we go.
4-box it. All right.
Yeah. Hey, Don, thanks for joining us. We're bringing you in. Matt had requested you in here because he wanted to hear and talk with you a little bit more about. We're talking about plugging into MTR.
So here's what I will say. Okay. MTR, there's no cost for people to join MTR, and there's no cost for them to participate in MTR. We get funded by grants and other resources. For example, on Monday, our friends at Neaters, the little restaurant down the street, is going to do a fundraiser for us. So that money will pay for our administrative and operational costs to keep that program running. Okay, that's how it works. If you're in the audience. I'm not sure if the Boeing lady's still here. If you'd like to write us, a check or work with us to, contribute towards the continued operations of our program, please let us know. We are now in the process of working on several grants with the VA and some other nonprofits, particularly in the area of suicide prevention. And so that's that's our funding mechanism. But we're after the grants and the other programs that would pay for our costs. And we've had some good advisors, and they all said it's going to take you a couple years before they even talk to you. And I talked to one organization, which shall remain nameless, and they said, if you want a real foundation support from us, it's going to take 5 years of audited books. I said, oh, really? Okay, I get that, and I understand that. But that's how we fund things, and I think we've proven our acumen in helping people. I'm going to point this over to Don because Don's got the results, of the original group. Our retention rate for job retention rate is very significant. Wouldn't you say, Don?
Copy that.
Explain to them what I meant by job retention and what are the actual facts and numbers, sir.
Yeah, the hard part is jumping right into the middle here.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the opportunity. We do work together quite a bit. Yeah, so I was going through the numbers again this week. So we are now at 66 graduates. Matt, I don't think I've even updated you yet. 66 graduates in just over, about 27 months.
Right.
And graduates, not just walking through the program, but getting the job you're looking for, right? And here's the key factor we focus in on. Syracuse University Veterans Center did a study that said 45% of veterans leave their first post-military job within 12 months. That means half are going to be looking for a new job. And now there's other studies that say it's really like 65%. So that means 2 out of every 3. And so far as we've been tracking our folks are leaving that job at about a rate of 15%, almost 4 times less. So we're trying to really focus in as we talk one-on-one, Matt and I, with the individuals is what do you really want? What's the job you're looking for, right? What is it that drives you? What are the values you're looking for? So, it's not only the role, but even the leadership. What kind of leadership do you reply best to? We do the DISC assessment. I don't know if Matt talked this. We do the DISC assessment.
We did not.
And you learn about your personality. And the key thing is you learn about your personality is you learn who you are, right? Self-awareness. You have to know yourself to grow yourself. Who says that there, Sean?
John Maxwell.
John Maxwell. And probably a bunch of others, right? Yep. But John Maxwell for sure. Sean and I are both John Maxwell team members. And so you got to know yourself to grow yourself, but then you can know others. Matt and I are different personalities, but we know now how to work with each other. Not saying it's always easy, but we get it done. So it works really well. And I think that's the same thing. If as you're interviewing folks, what you're looking for in a personality, you can say, is that going to be right or wrong? I interviewed with one company and I got out in 2009. I interviewed with a company in late 2008. Everything was wrong. The setup of the office, the cleanliness, the way the interviewing authority, he talked 99% of the time. I was like, well, this is going to be interesting. I'm an SC, but I have an I personality that's fairly high, just below the midline, and I need to be heard, right? I need to be able to voice certain opinions, and if I can ever say anything, that's not going to work. So so I think there's a lot of things that go into that, 50 to 75, 65% leaving, but that's the things we're focusing in on is how do we change those?
Yeah.
Hey, Mark and Sean, at this point, I'm going to say goodbye. And the reason I'm saying goodbye is, and I would love to do this again with my colleague, Don Gleason. I have a granddaughter that's visiting me from Atlanta, Georgia. So I'm in the grandpa zone and we're heading off to see her in a few minutes. My wife said, yes, I know this is important to you. And I know you want to do this. And I said, well, I would. If I had to take a remote thing and do it from the pool where she's swimming or something, I would do that because I believe that much in our mission. And so I'm going to say goodbye at this point and say thank you so much. I know if, you can find me on LinkedIn. Now, let me just say this real quick. My given name is D, as in David. My middle name is Matt, M-A-T-T, and my last name is Scherer, S-C-H-E-R-E-R. That's how you find me on LinkedIn. I hope if you've heard this you know, if you're listening to this a couple months from now and say, hey, I really want to reach out to you, Matt, please do so. There's lots of other ways we can work together, and to see Sean is the proof of what we're doing that motivates me to work through all these things to help people succeed.
Yeah. Hey, Matt, thank you so much for joining us. Just a pleasure to have you on here. Your testimony, your insights, your resources. Viewer audience, what I would like you to do is, if you can, give us a big smile, Matt, and take a screenshot. Take a screenshot of Matt. Connect with him on LinkedIn. Again, D. Matt Shearer. I was mispronouncing it earlier, so thank you for that insight as well. Tag him, give him some love, post it up on your social media. Let's spread the word about Military Transition Roundtable and the work that Matt's doing there, as well as Don. We are going to go to another quick break, and we will be back with Don Gleason to hear his thoughts on Military Transition Roundtable and otherwise. Stay with us.
And
All right, welcome back to the Vet SOS show, brought to you by the Who You Know Network, where what you know is important, but who you know can make all the difference in your job search.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
we are back, Sean and I, and we've got Don Gleason joining us. Want to share with you a little bit more about Don because, man, he's got a ton to offer. He's been a leader in the environmental and leadership realms for 40 years. 40 years, first as a civil engineer in the USAF, and then as a management consultant with Booz Allen Hamilton. So he's continuing to up level his skills as executive director with the Maxwell leadership team since 2015. He combines his education, experience, and professional growth as he works with people and organizations to achieve their personal and professional goals. He's focused to grow leaders who want to grow and with a goal to raise them to achieve new heights in their personal lives, professional careers. It's only through intentional action and prioritizing these actions that ultimate results become reality. Thank you so much for joining us, Don. I've got a couple picks up for you, but we are joined by Don Gleason here with us. We've got some good images of him that he sent us. There he is, all dressed
Yeah.
up, suited and booted, and he's out there speaking and doing what he can for the Military Transition Roundtable and the military community. So thank you for joining us, and pleasure to have you here. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit more? We've kind of been asking this of all of our guests.
Mm-hmm.
What got you started? Why are you so passionate about helping active and prior service members?
Well, first of all, thanks for the opportunity to be on, and I appreciate it. We're just connecting and talking lately and working with Sean as we go through this program. So what got me motivated? 27 years in the Air Force. I got in as an environmental guy, but I quickly, when we were second lieutenants, we laughed and said, why would anybody want to grow up to be a base civil engineer? That was the CE squadron, civil engineering squadron commander. You just always getting beat up on. Why would you want to do that? And it was because you got to help people be better than themselves, right? People would come in and they'd have disciplinary issues, and you could have a conversation with them and you could talk to them and you could turn them in the right direction. And I've got a number of stories. I won't go into all those, but where that has worked, and it just motivated me to get into leadership. And then I think because I saw so many folks, I got out of Booz Allen in 2018 and started my own company actually a year before that in 2017, and we were helping military in transition. And just like the people that would come to me when I was squadron commander, they were going through tough times. It was moving in the wrong direction, and I just said, I got to do something. I can't step aside and not be engaged. My personality, one of my strengths is serving, and I just had to jump in and do something. It's kind of like this month. This is Mental Health Awareness Month. I'm doing a 50-mile ruck march. In fact, I just finished my 50 miles, and I had to be wearing a rucksack to do it. Probably something Sean's well used to. Us Air Force guys aren't used to that. but it's about stopping soldier suicide. So I've raised money for that nonprofit to help. So just doing what I can in that environment. It's me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we talked about this a little bit with Matt, and just in the previous segment, but there are, and Alfredo too. There are a lot of veterans, right, going through not only this transition, right, but a lot of the baggage, the mental health issues, identity crisis, depression, just all the things that they're going through from a mental health perspective. What have you seen is maybe one of the predominant issues in why they're dealing with that, and some of the ways that you're helping them overcome that?
Well, we're working with a gentleman named Howie Cohen, and he's really focused in on this, and he's been giving us some research, and he showed that the number one ideation for the highest, I'm not sure exactly how you say it, the number one ideation, the highest ideation for military thinking about suicide is transition. It's just something so new. It's scary. It's different, and you've never had to do that before. And because there's a number of stories. I'll tell one about a gentleman named Ray, and he got out of the service, retired, I think at 20. But he may be just separated. But anyway, the point was he was searching for a job. He was up in his office and he was doing the spray and pray method, and sending resumes out everywhere, and wasn't getting any response back. And that's what drove him to be engaged in recruiting, to make sure he's getting that connection. But when I heard that story and how his wife had to go in and pull him basically out of the office and get him connected with people, I just thought that, this is far more prevalent than we ever think about. And I think as you go through now, how many people are really admitting? I've been doing some videos every day, and there's a number of reasons why we as military won't reach out for help, right? We don't want to seem weak. We don't want to be rejected. We don't want people to think bad of ourselves. Or it impacts our ego. There's so many different, there's tons of reasons why. But the fact is, we don't reach out. And that just means that there's tons of people that are out there right now that are not seeking help. They're not getting help to walk through transition. So Matt and I are really just focused in on how do we get this program out to them and walk together with them. And I think that's the heart of the mastermind, the military transition roundtable, is we're bringing people together to work through it. And I think once they see that they're not alone, I hate to say misery loves company, but when you realize you're not the only one struggling, it helps you walk through that.
Yes, yeah. There's a lot of folks that we've helped that, you know, they just got that network, that community from us. It may not have been any particular thing that we teach that got them landed, but you know, we have testimonial after testimonial. It's just like, thank you so much for the support, just the support, and knowing that I'm not alone, right? That there is help out there. Sean, how about you? What? I know you've gone out and done great. Matt had given you some accolades as far as being a thought leader and really pushing the boundary as far as initiative goes. But what's your experience been? I mean, as far as being able to find the resources, right, and step out of your comfort zone and admit that you need help.
So the biggest thing for me, I've been very open about anger management problems that I've had. And it was really my wife and my mother that called me out on it years ago, which made me move in that direction. And through that, I have not been scared to tell my soldiers that story and use that with them. One, it shows a little vulnerability, but it also shows you're human, and it shows that, you know, anybody can go through it. You know, a brand new soldier looks at a senior non-commissioned officer. Oh, well, they've made it to the top. They have no problems. We got a lot of problems from aches and pains to whatever else. There's a lot of things going on. You just may not see it. So having that, you know, becoming a little human, I believe I've been able to help a few people in that aspect. And the one thing that I really love, like, about what Alfredo, he's not scared to talk about his struggles and the things he's gone through. And we're finding more and more military leaders, veterans, who aren't scared to talk about their struggles and get that information out there. And by doing that, we're helping people. The other great thing, like when it comes to MTR, you know, we identify, or at each session, there's a problem identified, and we discuss it as a group and come up with potential resolutions to it after we ask some very pointed questions. And so you really peel back the onion on the issue and get down to the point of the matter, which makes the group, I think, function so well and actually be highly beneficial. So going through that whole piece has definitely been beneficial for me. As far as finding resources, you could do a simple Google search and find, you know, 5,000 military resources. You just have to figure out in the long run, I think, what's beneficial to you. You know, and it's not that one's better than the other, but maybe one just fits your personality better. And like Don and I met through Veterati. I called him or set up a mentor call with him. A week prior to that, I'd been talking with someone about the John Maxwell team. I had no idea Don was in the John Maxwell team. I had no idea he ran MTR. So we had this conversation, and then we started talking about John Maxwell, and then he invites me to this MTR group, and next thing you know, I'm doing the John Maxwell training. I'm in MTR, and it was honestly just because Veterati said we were a good match that I reached out to him, because he was in San Antonio. I was thinking about moving to San Antonio. Why not call him and let's find out what's going on? You know, all in all, I think I benefited greatly in that conversation. So it worked out pretty well for me.
Yeah.
If I could, I think there's a key thing that Sean just said, and that is I'm going to say he's in touch with his emotions, and sometimes people don't like that statement, but I think that's exactly what he's saying, right? He knew what he was looking for. You know, when we started talking, he knew that he wanted to be a speaker. He wanted to get out in front of audiences. He had a message that he wanted to get out. And we all have a message, but most of us don't put it out there. And Sean wanted to
Right.
put it out, and it just provided him an opportunity in both pieces. But I think as we go through transition, we have to be thinking about that. What do we want? What makes me feel good in here? What motivates me, right? It's not to say it's going to be easy every day, but when you're moving through for your passion and your mission, you can get through those tough times a lot easier than um, when you're not. I was on a project with Booz Allen Hamilton doing cost efficiencies, and we were doing great things, but it wasn't my passion. There was many days I just walked away. It's like, why am I here? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it wasn't pulling me through it, and I
Just
finally left.
JOB. Yep. It was a
JOB, yeah.
JOB. Yep. So, Matt shared with us about the work that he's doing, and it sounds like, he's very, very, very entrenched in education on LinkedIn,
Hmm.
your online network, your profile, your space, who you are. What's been the most impactful thing that you're helping, right, folks with?
I think it's almost where I was going just a second ago, and just to
Yeah,
add a little bit more, and I appreciate that question, is I think most people don't know what they want to do next. They really
okay.
struggle with it.
Direction.
Yeah, the military, we had this thing called the ASVAB, right? Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. Most of us got placed into a job. And then we said, okay, so we were looking for something. We did well. We got trained. We excelled. They got promoted. But all of a sudden, if they were overmanned, they got retrained into other career fields. Not what they wanted, but what was the best of what was available, right? So it wasn't until you got out that you really have that option after 20 or 30 years to say, what do I really want to do? And because we've always served others, we don't know what we want. So I really take them through a process to try to get them to think into what it is that I want to do. There's a gentleman right here over my shoulder. This is my dad in the Korean War, and he did youth development extension. He had his PhD at the University of Wisconsin, and he really helped me think into different things. And so I think one of those things is, what do you want to do? That was where the environmental piece you mentioned earlier, man, that excited me since fifth grade. But all of a sudden, when leadership opportunity came up, it moved that way. And now it's really zeroing in on military transition. So it's helping people answer that question, because I think once you answer that question, it focuses everything else, right?
Right.
People always tell me, what do I put in my LinkedIn profile? Well, what do you want to do? Well, I don't know. Well, then it's hard to tell what to put in LinkedIn or your resume or your elevator pitch, or who do I research with, or who do I do informationally? So you just get my point, right?
Yep.
So once you figure that one out, I think it really zeroes things in. And I think most people really struggle with time management. So I know for me, when I did this 12 years ago, once I got that straight, it really saved me a lot of time.
I love that. How many people, and it sounds like the majority, right? But maybe you can shed a little bit more light on how many people don't know what they want to do because they're leaving the service and they're not staying in their career field, versus how many people are actually, they know, right? They're in a
Mhm.
career field in the service, and that's what they're planning on doing when they leave.
I'm going to guess about 85 to 90% do not know.
Wow.
And I was an engineer, right? So you think about, we pretty much know, but I had to go through. I could have been design, construction, I could have been facility maintenance, I could have been emergency management, environmental. I did a lot of things in civil engineering. But those first couple, design, construction, facility maintenance, no, I would not have been happy. Environmental and emergency management was where I had to zero in. So I had to go through that, even though I had gotten my degree in that and came to the service knowing that's what I wanted. So I think it's a pretty high. I've talked to lawyers who don't know, do I want to stay in law? What kind of law do I want to get into? I've always been this kind, but I don't really like that. So I think in a lot of ways, a lot of us struggle with that
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
So along those lines, though, Don, how are you using the John Maxwell stuff to help transitioning service members?
Yeah, the number one thing is coaching. Right? You can be a mentor. Veterati is mentoring, right? I can tell people what to do based upon my experience, but the real answer lies in each of us. And if the coach doesn't ask questions to pull that out, then we never really wrestle with it. you got that subconscious. I try not to get too detailed here, but you got the conscious mind, the subconscious mind. We do our thinking in the conscious mind, but all of our beliefs, systems, habits, everything lies in the subconscious, and we're really run by our subconscious mind. Um, so until we pull those beliefs out and start wrestling with them, so the fears of, I don't want to be rejected. I don't want to appear weak if I ask questions. If I say I don't know, until we pull that up and we wrestle with it and we change it and put it back and say, I'm going to ask that question. So um, just a quick story. I had a gentleman in Alabama, sergeant major of the Army. And I said, what do you want to do? And he said, I have no idea. I said, so where'd you come from? So, South Alabama. I said, why did you join the service? He said, there was nothing for me here. It was going to be drugs and alcohol and gangs, and I did not want that. Great. And we walked around things. And I said, what was the best experience? He said, oh, it's easy. When the U.S. Olympics basketball dream team came to D.C., I got to be the POC. And what really touched my heart was when the dream team was standing in front of all these kids from inner city D.C. and talking about where they came from and how they rose out of the ashes, so to speak. And the light and the kids' eyes were like, I can do this. They're in the same place I was. If they were in the same place I am, but 40 years ago, 30 years ago, I can do that. It gave him hope. And he changed his focus into what he wanted to do. So I think being able to find that piece that touches your heart is so important.
Yeah.
Is that what you're getting at, John?
Yes. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, coaching.
100%.
And I think that's the power of the mastermind, right? We're not just immediately telling people what the answer to that question is. We ask questions to get them to think into, well, tell me a little bit about it. Tell me what you've tried. Tell me, what wasn't successful about that. What did you learn? And then we can give them better advice at that point.
Can you talk a little bit more about any of these aspects, right? I mean, Buzel and Maxwell Leadership, probably more so, Military Roundtable, MTR. What's the process, right? There's probably steps for somebody on let's say it's onboarding, right?
Right.
What do people go through? Can you paint that picture?
Onboarding into Military Transition Roundtable?
Mm-hmm.
It's fairly simple. I think that's about where I joined with the previous conversation with Matt, and then we jumped into the metrics. But to step back to that, so I appreciate you asking. It's really about Matt and I just gauging the ability of them to be coachable and teachable. Something I learned in the Maxwell leadership team, previously John Maxwell team, is you can work with clients. That's why I say I work with clients who want to grow, leaders who want to grow, because there's a lot of leaders who are set in their ways and they will not take advice. They will not take action. They just continue to do the same thing, back to the subconscious mind, right? And the habits and systems, and they're not willing to change them, and they're not going to see any different results. So it's not a lot of use to work with those folks until they decide that they want to change. But when they want to change, we can use that coaching process and the mentoring process on top of it to really move them through the process. So that's really our piece, is Matt and I talk to them and say, just gauge them. Are you coachable and teachable? If you are, come on in and try it. And then we work together with you. So it's really, really simple.
As far as people that identify that they're going to have some struggles, right, with the coaching in being teachable, maybe they have that self-awareness, right? Mm-hmm. And so let's say it's determined that they're not maybe necessarily a great fit for your program. What do you do at that point?
Two things. One, I'll try to work with them one-on-one. So they're not in the group necessarily, because that'll pull the group back down if they're not willing to try things. So I'll work with them one-on-one and see if I can shake things free. If not, I'll reach out to the other resources. We're part of the Joint Base San Antonio Transition Alliance. There's 65 organizations that come together every Tuesday morning. And if I know that one of them can help, based upon they being a women's veteran, a spouse, a military in a certain area, we've got connections in there with who have been officers and senior NCOs in the services and got out. They might be vice president at Wells Fargo, I think, of a certain person, or a person in USAA. We go all around companies. We get with them and say, hey, would you have a conversation with this guy? And maybe there's something there that you can shake out. So we'll try to stay in touch with them and see if we can move them along the process.
Yeah.
Our ultimate job is to get them into the job they want. I got one guy who's 40 years out of the military. So he's 65, he's unemployed. And it's just, I think he's finally got a job, but it's taken about a year. But we've stayed in touch, we've worked together, but he just wasn't the fit for MTR.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So it goes back to serving again, right? I'm gonna do whatever I can to fix it.
no,
Go ahead,
that
Joe.
point you brought up is interesting. You called it the JBSA
Transition Alliance.
Transition Alliance. So I've heard now 2 or 3 different locations that have something very similar.
Good.
How new is this? Because I don't remember hearing about that. I wasn't transitioning at the time, but when I lived in San Antonio, I'd never heard of that.
Yeah, so it's not really for the transitioning member, it's for the transitioning organizations. So within that is the government. So it's the military family readiness sections of Fort Sam and the other bases in San Antonio. It's other organizations, nonprofits, et cetera, who are helping. So Centurion Military Alliance, Military Transition Roundtable, others. There are employers like Deloitte, Booz Allen, others. There are Bear County organizations, the city of San Antonio. So there's a number of organizations that are all in that space helping the member. It's not for the member to come to that organization. This is for us to kind of deconflict what we're doing and to advertise and to try to get that word out to our group of people. So
all in all, good communication and teamwork between everybody. That's outstanding.
Exactly. Yeah. What was happening? So the length of time, I know it's been over at least 3 years, and I think it's somewhere around 4 years. Serafina de los Santos, I think, had the brainchild. She's a GS-14, retired herself out of, I'm going to be wrong if I say Army or Air Force, but I think she was Lieutenant Colonel. But she saw a need. She's a deputy director under the Joint Base San Antonio, the Combat Support Wing. She's a deputy director in the Combat Support Group, working kind of personnel issues. So she's that connection.
That's amazing. It's such a great resource.
Yeah. And it's about deconflicting, right? At one point we would go around the room and it's like, hey, this Thursday, and they did this Thursday, and everybody was saying this Thursday. It's like, wait, time out. The members, you guys, transitioning member, can't go to everything on one day, so let's deconflict that. And they've now got a calendar where we can at least have the visibility of what's happening what days.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. That is awesome to see that we're having that. And I know there's one here in Savannah to that extent. I've heard of one in Jacksonville as well. So it looks like that whole concept is starting to spread, which is overall, even though it's not for the veteran to attend or the transitioning service to attend, it's going to benefit them in the long run, which will be great.
Exactly right. And that's the piece. I may have touched on this a little bit. That gap analysis, I think I started down the path, and that's, I think, what Sean talked about. Not every event, not every organization, not every networking thing is for each member. You can't go to everything, right? There's just too many. Sean has just listed all these different organizations on LinkedIn, and I praise that. I've said that a couple of times on his post, right in the comments. This is fantastic. People should follow Sean. But the key is to do a gap analysis and figure out, where am I at? What do I need? And which will help me do that? I did that in my first couple of days when I started Booz Allen, right? I was good in these things. I wasn't good over here. I needed to learn how to do business development, proposals, and financial management the Booz Allen way. And I found those kind of guys. The same idea with transition. I'm good at writing a resume, maybe LinkedIn, but maybe I'm not good at networking. Maybe I'm not good at interviewing. So I need to go bag those resources. To try to do everything, there's just not enough time.
What about a situation where they've got your support, they've got a clear definition or idea of the role they want, but there's the question of, am I qualified, right? Or maybe they feel like they're not qualified and fear the rejection because of that. How would you coach someone in that?
Imposter syndrome, right? I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough, etc. I'm actually doing a webinar. Hasn't been advertised yet. It's going to come out this week. On the 7th of June at 5 p.m. on a Tuesday, I'm going to be doing 5 p.m. Central. I'm going to be doing a webinar about imposter syndrome. And I've talked that before within MTR. And boy, everybody's like, yeah, that's me. That's me. So it really comes back to getting back one-on-one together with somebody and drilling into that. I had a mentor who said, you have a gremlin sitting on your shoulder and he's talking into your ear. You can't do that. You're not, are you smart enough? Right? Are you rich enough? Right? If you have the ideas, and we walk them through and say, you've been 20 years, 25 years in the service, maybe 6 years in the service. What have you faced? How have you done that same thing? Were you successful? How did you get to that point? And we end up knocking that gremlin off the shoulder. It's like, I can do this. I've done it before. Right. But again, it's that subconscious piece. I got to pull it up, deal with it, and say, no, I can do this. I have done this. I went to Baghdad, Iraq in 2004, helped lead the programming of a $12.8 billion reconstruction program, 3,200 projects. Whatever told me in my life that I could do that, right? I'd been a squadron commander, and I led about $115 million construction program with my team, but huge difference. But if I just broke it down and said, it's the same process, I've done this, and I did it. So
Yeah.
we achieved some neat results. I won't say I was
Wow.
the best at it, but
Well, in kind of hit upon this just previously, but self-limiting beliefs. I think it was Matt maybe that talked about comp, right, in negotiations.
Yeah.
Um, and I was just talking about this the other day. It's like the conversation I was having with someone, and they were talking about how we don't look at the past, right? We don't look and focus on the past, right? When you're driving, you glance at the rear view mirror, but you don't focus on that. You're focused on what's ahead of you and in front of you. And I think, and maybe you can talk about this a little bit, but let's say even at the officer level, but enlisted certainly, they're at a point in an income level where if they're going from what they know, there's a self-limiting belief on what they can do, whether that's maybe the compensation level that they're looking for outside in the civilian sector in a new role, whether or not they can do a job and they're qualified for that. All of those things kind of come from some of our past experiences and create those self-limiting beliefs. How do you help people overcome that?
That's what's in the subconscious mind, right? It's all those thoughts. I have just to use an analogy. So I got frustrated with stock market performance as I was working with some companies when I was in the military, right? And I was starting to get out. I said, I'm gonna take this over. I think I can do better than them. And I learned about the stock market. I had some mentors, and they helped me. And I've been outperforming the S&P 500. Certainly a tough year this year, but I'm moving in the right direction. I know what's going on and stuff, so I'm smart enough about it. And some people don't want to do that. That's fine. But I also had a friend who said his dad told him, here's that limiting belief: don't ever invest in the stock market. It's a rigged game. It will steal your money. You can never win. Well, heck, in the last 3 to 4 years, I've almost doubled, 25% a year. I've almost doubled my income. I've been able to retire and do things I want to do. He's going to be working until 75 or 80. So, and I'm not trying to downplay him, but that's that limiting belief in his head that's talking to him. And I've had some conversations, but he wasn't willing to really dig into it. It's pretty firm set. He does it in another way. So, but that same kind of thing happens to us as we're going through transition. I was kind of leaning back a little bit. I got to turn to the right side here. This picture, the reason I put this here, and it was at a transition program, and I was going through putting the flag on, I was putting the tree on, and I got to this ground clutter right here. I got stuck, and I could not figure out the way. I was trying to go from the top down. I was using the wrong stroke, trying to go from the top down to create the ground clutter, the ground bushes. And it took me 15 minutes to walk through, talk to the instructor, talk to other people, watch. And I didn't want to destroy what I had created, right? And I think we are in the military, as we have a successful career, we're afraid to step out of it because we might destroy kind of where we're at, the perception of who we are, that strength, those kind of things. And all of a sudden I took the brushstroke, and it was amazing. And I just started doing brushstroke after brushstroke because it just came out. I got over the limiting belief, but I was inside my mind at the time dealing with, why are you so afraid of taking the stroke? You can recreate this painting again. Right? I can do all those things again. So let's move through it and try it. It's just a learning process. John Maxwell has a process. He says we try, we fail, we learn, we adjust, and we re-enter. And if you try and fail and stop, you can never go anywhere. But you got to learn, adjust. And that's what I was doing. I was walking through that process. And that's what I help them think through when I'm working with them.
Yeah, that's a mic drop moment right there for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we're getting down to time. I definitely appreciate you sharing. There's so much, right, that you've said, and so much help that you guys are providing, both you and Matt, through MTR and all the other organizations. I wanted to ask you had put that flag back up. I don't think we were live, or that sign behind is that your right shoulder?
That one there?
There. Yeah. Oh, that's the Society of American Military. Okay, I was wondering what that was. I couldn't see that, and I wasn't able to read it from afar. So
I encourage people to get involved in a civilian professional association. MO is good, Sergeant Association is good. All those are good, but you're meeting military people, right? You need to learn how the field you want to go into, whether it's SHRM, Society of Human Resources Management, or Communication Electronics is the Air Force Communication Electronics Association, but it's civilians in the organization, from downtown corporations, McDonnell Douglas, Leidos, Lockheed Martin, all those, in small businesses as well. That's what this is. I'm trying to point to the right way here. SAME, Society of American Military Engineers. And it's all those big engineering companies, construction companies, design companies. And by me working through that in my career, I've been involved for over 30 some years. I got to know those companies, and I got to know how they operate. I got to know some of those leaders. So when I was getting out, I already had a relationship with them. So I announced my retirement, and I said, "Hey, Gary, hey, Bill, hey, Fred, can we have a conversation? I've made my decision. I'm going to get out this summer." And you did it 2 years ago, and bingo, we started having some great conversations.
I'm dropping mics all over because that is what it is all about. 100%. Yeah, what a great testimony.
I have to brag a little bit. Through our efforts this year, I've been able to win 2 awards. One is to the John Maxwell team. It's the Nurturing Transformation Award for what I'm doing with military transition, Matt and I, but other things I'm doing as well, right, with veterati and stuff. But last week I got the Gibson Medal. Ed Gibson was a colonel, U.S. Army retired, who really helped a lot of engineers over the last 10, 20, 30 years get the job they're looking for. I'm kind of following his footsteps. He helped me 12 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So it was an honor to go last week to Denver and pick up the Gibson Medal. And,
nice.
Wow.
So
come full circle.
Come full circle. Yep. And I'm not done yet. I got a long way to go.
Yeah. Well, like you said, I mean, you've got to be active. You got to get out of your comfort zone. You've got to join these organizations because I'm up here in DFW, which has an extremely large career transition support network. Mm-hmm. And there's so many groups that you could go to a career transition group every day, mm-hmm. several times a day, to different groups each week, right? Mm-hmm. But there gets to a point where you're not learning, right? A lot of it's just regurgitated information. You have to get out into group, and this is key. What you had said is perfect. You have to go where the jobs are, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're networking and you're going through trainings and even MTR maybe to a certain extent, like you're networking with your peers and colleagues maybe who are in the same space and you're getting mentored, but spot on with joining an association or something in your career field or in the career field that you want to go to build those relationships, right? And that's also a keyword, relationships.
That's right. So, if I could say one more thing, I think we get trained not to think. Our parents told us what to do to be safe, right? Don't go in the street. Don't do this. Don't do that. In school, it was like, you got to study this. This is what you're going to do to take the test. Here's the answer to the test. Same in college. In the military, a lot of our times our bosses said, hey, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go take this hill. I want you to go do this project. I want you to do it this way. So we get told what to do. And so all of a sudden, when we now have an opportunity to think, it's foreign to us. And we need to learn how to think, how to engage our conscious mind. And that's where all of a sudden those limiting beliefs, et cetera, in our subconscious, now we start hitting them like this, right? And that's where we need help to walk through them because we just have never done that before. And
Yep.
I think that's an
Affirmative.
important part of growth in this process. And that's, I think, why it's so frustrating, because it's like, I don't know how to do this. And what did Sean say? All my information I'm passing along is on Google. You just have to search it. But we don't think of that.
Yeah, you're a good Googler, Sean.
Yep.
You're a good Googler. Hey, Don, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here, sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. Viewer and listener audience, if you would, I would like you to take a screenshot right now. You got Don's smiling face right there. Post it out, share it, give him a plug, right? Tag him in that post and let him know how much you appreciate his advice, his knowledge, and again, his expertise. Don, thank you so much. We're going to go to our last break and we're going to introduce our last guest, which is going to be Brett Courier. So stick with us. We'll be back shortly.
Thanks a lot, Don.
Hey, thank you very much for the opportunity. Appreciate what you guys are doing. Keep up the great work.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks.
It's team.
All right, welcome back to the Vet S.O.S show, brought to you by the Who You Know Network, where what you know is important, but who you know can make all the difference in your job
Absolutely.
search. We are joined by Brett Courier. Let me pull Brett up here. I actually got his picture here. He is, and I'm going to read you a little bit more about him. He's the founder and CEO of Vet Gigs, a talent marketplace with a mission to help veterans and military spouses find new purpose after the military through lucrative careers in technology, consulting, and other professional services. Brett started his career in the Army and the Air National Guard, Army National Guard, where he served 12 years. His service included a tour in Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation New Dawn. He's a Deloitte Consulting alumni and currently works at Huron Consulting Group in addition to Vet Gigs. So welcome. Thank you, Brett, for joining us. Appreciate you being here and sharing your knowledge and expertise with us.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Sean, Mark, very happy to be with you. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks. So you've had just a great level of experience. I mean, Deloitte, certainly, right? One of the big four, and probably a lot of knowledge gleaned from working with them. Thank you as well for your service. Tell me a little bit more about why you're passionate about helping service members, like prior service members, what you're doing right with Vet Gigs and all of the efforts that you're putting forth.
Yeah, it's something that's deeply personal to me, not only from my time in the service, because I do believe that kind of energy you carry as a non-commissioned officer does carry forward. It doesn't just end when you leave the service. But I've also had the unfortunate experience of losing a number of battle buddies due to suicide, both while I was in the service and since leaving. And each one of those losses has made it more profoundly personal to me and deepened my sense of mission to help out the veteran community. And as you pointed out, my experience at Deloitte Consulting and now at Huron Consulting Group has kind of put me in a unique place where it's given me the opportunity to help out the veteran community even more by helping them learn about different opportunities in technology, consulting, and other professional services, and really help them prepare for those roles. Because while there's a lot of amazing resources out there, what I found is a lot of them, specifically helping with the transition aspect of things, you know, there are folks who are really well-meaning but haven't worked in the type of roles where they're trying to help veterans transition into. And I mean, that's my kind of day in and day out. So not only are we in a position at Vet Gigs to help veterans get into these different positions and really help place them, but really help with the preparation aspect as well. So a lot of the veterans we talk to are, 6 months, a year and a half from transitioning. And we kind of help put them together a development plan and connect them with free resources needed to really become marketable candidates for these roles.
So leaving Deloitte, right, in the experience, the service, really, I guess, in part, in going from the Guard, active duty, and then to the Guard, and then to Deloitte, getting that experience. Where did the Vet Gigs idea come from?
Yeah, so that's actually a really great question. It's something I've really been thinking about for years, and it's gone through a few different iterations. When I first got into Deloitte, I was a little bit befuddled because they're pretty good about reaching out to the veteran community in the way they know how to. It's obviously this huge bureaucracy. So trying to reach a very small niche community can be really difficult for such a big organization. But when I was there, I was just surprised by how often we would be working on a multi-million-dollar contract. There would be an opportunity to bring on disabled veteran subcontractors to millions of dollars of benefit to Deloitte. And they would just like, no, it's too tough. We're not going to be able to get veterans to do this kind of work. And I'm, what? Like, these are amazing opportunities for our community. Like, what do you mean we're not going to pursue something that's going to bring
millions, huh?
Yeah, where it's something that's not going to bring millions of dollars to the firm, but it's also going to provide amazing job opportunities for a diversity, equity, and inclusion community, one that I care deeply about. So I originally thought of it as kind of a staffing firm idea, like, hey, we can connect people better than a lot of the staffing firms out there. But then I saw it was around the time I actually lost my second close battle buddy due to a suicide, that I saw that, we need to have a model that's far more scalable than staffing firm, because there's so many staffing firms out there, and they don't do that great of a job, and it needs to be a little more automated, a little more use of technology. So I saw the way Upwork and Fiverr were really adequately connecting communities of freelancers and employers together. And I thought, why don't we have a platform like that just for the veteran community, where when big firms, small firms, anybody that needs veteran community members to work on their projects, especially high income, high skilled projects that veterans can really excel at, they can come to our platform, and it's in one central location where they can find this fantastic talent, both for jobs and professional, or jobs and freelance work alike. And
that's
kind of on the path.
Aaron actually just joined us. I'm going to let him in here as well. Let me get us up into a 4-box here so we can see each other a little bit better. There we go. Hey, welcome, Aaron. So you guys collaborate and work together, right? Aaron, thanks for joining us. I have asked, Sean and I like to hear a little bit more about why you're passionate about helping active and prior service members. Why are you involved?
Yeah, certainly. I hope everybody can hear me okay. My connection's really slow. So I apologize for that. Me personally, it was interesting. Brett actually reached out to me trying to recruit me to post jobs on vet gigs because I own a digital marketing agency, and I've been in the industry for 22 plus years. And I am always actively trying to recruit veterans to come and join me.
What are some of the things that I guess you have seen as far as the market as of late, and either of you can answer this, right? For veterans, and we've asked some of the other guests this too. More receptive at this time and point, or less receptive?
So this is actually an ongoing conversation I have with our employers, with members on our advisory board. We actually have the CHRO of AppDirect, Deb Tenenbaum, who serves on our advisory board. She just provides fantastic insight, because this is someone who just day in, day out is working with HR leaders across the private and public sector. And she was like, you know what? We are in an unprecedented time, certainly, and workers are leaving like crazy from places from their place of employment as they realize, I could have something better, making it really high turnover. Everyone's seeing a lot of tumultuous and activity in their workforce. But from the perspective of HR leadership, they're all really focused on one thing. Yes, they would like to have more DE&I talent, and there's been an effort to involve more, to add more diversity, equity, and inclusion talent into their overall talent pool. But what their overall goal is, in general, is to get the largest talent pool possible so they can pick the best candidates from that. So I would say there's more openness by HR leadership in hiring veterans, but they're still competing versus civilian counterparts. Looks like Aaron dropped off. He should be back on in a second.
It's been a day. People have been dropping off, including me.
Oh, man. But sorry, go ahead, Sean.
Go ahead, Brett. Finish up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so, what I'm seeing a lot of at vet gigs is our talent is really still competing versus the greater civilian population. And I'd say the biggest struggle is having them be competitive against candidates who even just have 2, 3, 4 years of directly relevant experience. And what I constantly do is help our veterans reframe their experience so it doesn't look like they have 10, 15, 20 years of experience in the military, and now they're starting a new civilian career. It's a big effort in helping them rephrase their experience. So we point out the most relevant pieces of their civilian or their military experience, and it shows that their relevant experience actually started while they were in the military. It really makes sure that comes clear in their resume. And then accompany that with certifications and whatnot they've gotten during their transition to help show, yes, I do have background in this role. I do meet the qualifications and desired qualifications. And, then kind of partner that with freelance work to help show they have experience in the civilian world, or internships as well, which show that they have relevant experience in the civilian world. So it takes the thought out of the hiring bodies, so they're not thinking, are we really taking a chance on this this veteran, instead of going with someone who maybe has less years of professional experience but more years of directly relevant civilian experience.
Yeah, and welcome back, Aaron.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about the technical difficulties. You brought up a good point, which is the cost of a hiring mistake, right? And maybe Aaron, might be right up your alley. The cost of a hiring mistake. I mean, let's say you get somebody onboarding and you're going to pay them $100,000, right? And so you've got the salary, and that's probably the base, right? Let's say that's the base, but maybe total comp is in the 140 range, 130, 140 range when you factor in benefits and everything else.
Yep.
And you get somebody in, and let's say they're with you for 2 years, right? You're talking over $250,000 mistake. So talk to us a little bit about that. Like what are companies experiencing with veterans and service members, maybe specifically, and some of the pitfalls and how they're overcoming that, and how you guys are helping in that space.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I have firsthand experience. I have far too many, examples. We all like to think that we, hire well and we do our research, but sometimes it's just a miss. Sometimes life happens, and best laid plans. That happens a lot. So, I mean, typically when you onboard a new employee, it really takes them 6 months to get up to speed with company culture, with processes, just getting your head wrapped around. Even if they have experience doing the job, every time you move to a new company, the job might be the same, but the job is done differently every single time. So the cost to recruit and train, and then you've got 6 months before you can really give them a fair shake on, performance. So like you said, depending on their role, God, if it's a sales role, it's even more devastating, because then you've got your salary, you've got your benefits, you've got your total comp, but then you have the missed opportunities of maybe not hiring a great salesperson. Same goes with technical roles. If you've ever been in Salesforce, holy cow, it's a lot. It's a beast. And if you've got a not great Salesforce admin or a not great Salesforce team, again, the opportunity cost, you can't measure it, because you don't know how big of an impact the leakage is, the missed opportunities. It can be, in your example, it was $250,000. Well, what if you're selling to, the state of New York? How big of an opportunity miss is that? It could be worth tens of millions or even more when you're talking about enterprise level opportunities, and of course, government opportunities. And we all have that experience of, those large contracts. Once they start, they kind of just keep writing those checks, which is great. So your $1 or $2 million miss might actually be 20 million. So it's stats.
Yeah. So I'm getting a little bit of an echo. I think, Brett, maybe it's coming through your feed. The mistakes, like you said, they can add up, right? And so I get it why companies and Sean, maybe you can, share a little bit about your interviewing experiences, right? Or your search experiences so far. But at the same time, look, in the military, what do we have to be? Adaptable, right?
Yes.
Adapt and overcome. And so I think that, yes, it could be a mistake, but the onus isn't completely on the company either, right?
Oh, no.
And that's where Veterati, that's where vet gigs and MTR, some of these other resources that we're trying to bring to light here, can help. And I think that that's one of the things that we're trying to bring forward is how to overcome some of those things, be adaptable, and be able to succeed, to excel in a position that could be construed as maybe a mistake, but you're able to overcome that, right? You have the skill set. Obviously, they wouldn't have brought you in if it wasn't on your resume, right? So,
Right.
Yeah,
Brett-
and that imposter syndrome is something that Aaron and I have definitely
Oh my
talked a
God.
lot about. We see that a tremendous amount in the veteran community. So it's just, trying to assure them as well, like a talent to clarify. We'll get you prepared, but don't worry, there is going to be a little bit of a runway when you start a new role. And that's okay. You're going to be learning the company, you're going to be learning the industry, you're going to be learning the job. And so, we'll do our best ahead of time to prepare you for the industry and the job, understanding through certifications, talking with mentors in the field to prepare you as much as you can. But there's going to be an element of on the job learning, and employers generally expect that. As long as you are really putting your all in to learn that new role, like you did in the military, you're going to be fine. Just put in that effort.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I'll add a little bit to that. I know, again, I've had the experience of, hiring new grads or hiring, for junior positions. And one of the things that a lot of times companies don't think about is you're hiring somebody new to the industry. So you're doing training, but you're also hiring people who are kind of new to adulthood. So you're teaching them how to be a professional. They literally don't have the experience of how to interact with people. I remember one of my first jobs, out of the Marine Corps, one of my first office jobs, emailing back and forth, and I actually got pulled aside by my boss. Said, "Hey, your emails are like really direct. They're like a little harsh." I'm like, really? I was just answering, and I said, well, one of the things that we do here is say, sign off with thanks on every email. Who would have known that? Thank you, corporate America. Just those little things. You're teaching people new to the workforce how to be professionals. And while some military veterans may have a little bit of a rough edge, but we know how to be professionals. We know how to, not take it personally and adapt and overcome. That's, I think, unfortunately, one of the biggest things that you'll hear, one of the biggest complaints when you get people cracking on, millennials or Gen Z, how soft they are, or whatever. I honestly think it's just because they haven't had the opportunity to learn how to, adapt and overcome, because they haven't had that experience. And, we in the veteran community certainly have. So that's totally one of the things that gets missed when hiring from our community. And because we don't have, we might not have that, 5 years experience or that, polished degree from wherever. Yeah. Like Brett said, I mean, we've had so many discussions about imposter syndrome and, but I was on an aircraft carrier, so I don't know how to do this. Or me personally, when I was in the Marine Corps, I spent most of my time in supply and in a logistics S3 office. I had no idea how valuable experience that would be for me as a project manager. Like, holy cow, that was better than any sort of project management experience you could get from a book. Being able to coordinate with all the different units, coordinate requests, track where everything is. That's project management. I didn't understand that as a 19-year-old kid, or as a, I don't care, 22-year-old kid coming out of the Marine Corps. So there's a lot of ways that we can help, translate that experience and really educate employers on, we've got this experience. It just looks different, and we can apply it in a way that other folks can't.
Man, you guys are just totally hitting the nail on the head here, because it just sparked another question for me, which is degrees, right? Degrees. So a lot of us, obviously, if you're an officer now, if you're commissioned, you've got to have, at least your bachelor's degree, your undergraduate degree. A lot of folks, enlisted still today are leaving without perhaps a degree. And there's been a little bit of a shift I've heard in the career transition community, career search networks, in the companies that are engaging there, less of a strenuous requirement for a degree. But it's also that translation of experience, right, then that comes into play. What are you guys seeing in that?
So I mean, I think I could take this one. I kind of an interesting take, being a higher education consultant for my regular job, and then also just helping a lot of veterans through as a kind of counselor type role at Deloitte. And I really tell folks to start with their overall goal in mind. A lot of veterans haven't really thought through their end goal, or maybe have a rough idea, but they're just plowing into training, certifications, whatever, and kind of moving in 100 different directions and getting nowhere. That burns a lot of resources, the first of which being their time. So I tell them, hey, let's sit down, let's spend some time talking about a really targeted end goal. You want to be an ERP consultant. Maybe you want to work at Aaron's firm and be in marketing. Do you, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What's your, what is your end goal here? Do you want to be a Salesforce administrator, or, even beyond that, you want to be a Salesforce consultant, and admin's your first step, or going the development route is your first step? All of those are completely different goals that are going to take entirely different development paths. Now, what's interesting is traditionally, if you wanted to be an ERP consultant, we'll use that as an example, you would need a degree generally to get in, or at least to be highly competitive. Things are changing now. And, as major tech companies are saying, we don't really care about a degree all that much. We'd much rather have you come in with prior work experience, and we'd much rather have you come in with actually experience in the role we're hiring you for. So, we're seeing groups like Google put out free certification programs, and we're seeing them say, hey, if you go and take these certifications, we'll hire you, as long as you have the background that makes sense. In a lot of ways, that works to the benefit of the veteran community, because we can come out and say, look, I've got all these amazing soft skills. I've got a lot to bring to the table. Maybe they don't want to go and get their degree, or maybe they've already used their GI Bill or given that to their family. So going to college isn't going to be the best ROI for them. But we can get them set up with a free Coursera license through one of our partners, build a development plan for them based on a end goal we've identified together based on our experience in different areas of professional services and technology. And then through the free Coursera license and other resources out there that are free, really start focusing on the 20% of input they can make to get 80% of the output. That 20% of certifications, courses, training, internships, whatever out there, that's going to make 80% or 90% of the difference. And we're finding increasingly that's not higher education. So I generally won't ever discourage someone from, pursuing a higher education degree, but I have in cases where they're like, I'm just going to get my degree. I'm going to do something like creative leadership or something. I'm like, why creative leadership? I don't know. It sounded good. I'm like, all right, it's probably not a best use of 2 years of your life, guy. But it really starts with honing in on what's your goal, where do you want to go, and then talking to people who work in that area, who are 5-10 years in on that career path, and saying, hey, looking back, if you were to come up with the most optimal trajectory and like how to get into your field, how do I do that? That was something I did when I was looking to get into consulting, and I talked to experts in the field. And even when I was in interviews, I would ask the interviewer, hey, is there any other certifications you recommend I pursue? Any other training? Anything else I would do to make myself the most optimally marketable candidate? And they gave me advice, and it's worked. And now we kind of pass that on to candidates, veteran candidates who are looking for roles, and military spouses as well.
That's what I love about what you do, because I reached out to you through Veterati. It was a call. I had no idea anything about vet gigs or anything like that. And we got to talk, and you're one of the few I've talked to so far that actually went straight into building a profile on me. As we talked, you spit out this whole profile and sent it to me, and then lined me up with the free Coursera account. And then we did a follow-up call, and you're the only one really that I heard talking about like this co-op type thing. Now, a lot of the veteran support organizations are starting to come together and work together, but you were the first one I've talked to that actually came out and talked about that. Can you enlighten us a little bit on this concept that you have going on, and how you see the veteran support organizations and community moving forward?
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for bringing that up, Sean, because it's something I think is crucially important to our community. A lot of veterans get really frustrated when they can't get everything they need from the one or two organizations they know about in the veteran community for help, such as the VA, for example. The VA is a great example because they're massive bureaucracy with a lot of resources. Unfortunately, they have a very narrow scope on what they do. They're healthcare. Healthcare and financial benefits for disability. That is their narrow scope of value defined by the government as what they're supposed to provide. They do provide a lot of other ancillary value, the newsletter with other resources in it, things like that. But, they're focused on the healthcare and disability benefits. Now, when, I use the analogy of a net. Within a net of resources to support the veteran community out there. The VA is one strand of rope in that net. Vet gigs is another strand of rope. Our narrow scope of value is employment resources and, helping veterans prepare and become marketable candidates for those roles. There are groups like We Too Are Vets who provide another narrow scope of value of empowerment and support for women veterans and helping them with prepare for employment and whatnot. Groups like Tech for Troops, who's another one of our partners, who provides hardware for veterans who are looking to connect with family or need to use that hardware to build resumes and submit job applications, get on vet gigs, things like that. So we all kind of work together to provide that support, but we all have a narrow scope of value. On our own, we're just a narrow strand of rope. And if a veteran falls on a strand of rope, they're bound to get tangled up, get hurt, but it's not really going to help them that much. But together, when we come together like this and talk to each other about these resources and how we can provide end-to-end value, we start tying knots between the ropes and then build a net that actually is really supportive of our community. So what I've tried to do with our network, our co-op of different resources that we've talked about before, Sean, is look at the end-to-end journey of our users. From the time they are transitioning out of the service or just having trouble in their career. Maybe they've already been in the workforce for 10 years, but they're looking to transition into another role or move up and they're just kind of stuck. What does their journey look like? What are all the potential needs they could have? And while we can't provide it all through vet gigs, we can work together with all of these other organizations out there and provide end-to-end support, really making sure they get what they need to transition, well into the community or get to that next level in their career. And so we work with groups like Tech for Troops, with We Too Are Vets, with groups that provide training resources out there to help them reach their needs as well. mental health resources, physical health resources, nutrition resources, whatever it may be. We can try and work with other organizations so we can help not just in our narrow scope, but together in an end-to-end life cycle using all of our scopes of value.
Yeah. We had a question from Seth Harrison in our LinkedIn audience. And I think this was Aaron to one of the comments you were making about, funding, et cetera. Is it true about these programs that can get you more GI Bill money if you've used yours or transferred it to your kids or spouse? Are you guys aware of additional support there that you can get additional financial resources?
They may be.
I'm only aware of one in Texas, and that is for
The
Texas
Hazelwood Act?
veterans. The Hazelwood Act. I'm a native Texan. I used the Hazelwood Act to get my entire MBA, and all I had to do was pay for books. So fantastic. Awesome. And I still have about 60 hours to give to my daughters should they choose to go to a public university in Texas. So that is the only one that I know of.
There's another called VRAP that they may be mentioning. Seth may be mentioning. I think it was who had the question. So the VRAP program is something that is put into play by the federal government anytime there's high veteran unemployment, which is kind of subjective term. I'm interested actually what their idea is on that. Like before COVID, we were at like 6%. And it shot up during COVID. But VRAP is in place currently, and I think there's 1,600 programs that take VRAP dollars, and they provide certification support, training support. Sometimes they're full on higher education institutions, and you can get a full college degree. Otherwise, it may be something like getting your PMP or getting Workday certified or something like that. And so all kinds of different organizations, you can actually Google VRAP programs and find the full list, see if the organization you want to get training through is a VRAP provider. And if it is, check it out, because that's completely separated from your X number of months of federal education benefits you get from being in the military, your GI Bill, and can be really beneficial. Really, really beneficial too. And that's actually something we're going to be working on in the future is developing more of those relationships with VRAP providers, because going back to their own kind of narrow scope of value, they're legally obligated to help with placement, but a lot of these institutions are really only training providers. They're not employment providers. So they may have some kind of employment assistance office, but it's mostly going to be a job board. And Vet Gigs isn't a job board. We have direct relationships with all of our employers. So, that's where we come into value. And we'd love to have more partnerships with VRAP programs, actually helping directly with the placement of their people through our awesome employers who provide great opportunities to the veteran community.
Is there any, can you tell us a little bit, and I know we're getting down to time, I don't want to be respectful of your time, but the program itself, cost of entry, who's it available to? Can you tell us a little bit more about the program itself, your Vet Gigs?
Vet Gigs, yeah, absolutely. So Vet Gigs it's free to jump on, make an account, make a profile. If you find a job on Vet Gigs, zero out of pocket cost from or for the veteran on that. We are a freelancer marketplace, so the bulk of our functionality is built to make freelancing easy for veterans. And we don't focus on the churn and burn jobs you see on Upwork or Fiverr. That's another one of our distinguishing factors. We focus on, one of the reasons we're focused on tech and professional services is because consulting and technology projects are much longer and much more lucrative. So instead of, work on Upwork or Fiverr, Genie, you may see where they're $20, $30 an hour. Ours tend to start at $50 an hour and go, sometimes well above $200 an hour, and they're longer term. So you might be engaged for a year, 2-year long project in which you're making that, 40, 50 hours a week. And so really amazing opportunities for the veteran community. And for those freelance projects that we help iron out any of the pain points on, ranging from getting the work, coming to agreement on terms on the work, so you won't have to do a lengthy SOW. It's just, hey, I want you to pay me this much per hour for doing this kind of work, and I'll do this many hours per week or month, making it super easy. And then getting paid. We work through Stripe to automatically pull the payment directly from the employers and put it directly in the account of the freelancers. So you're never having to chase down employers for payment. And for helping with all of that, we do have a nominal commission-based system, which can be reduced as low as 1% when veterans are on there, referring other veterans or military spouses to the platform to help introduce new opportunities out there. Because we really do spread by word of mouth. Primarily, we want to spread the word about these amazing opportunities to other vets and military spouses. So we provide as much commission discount incentives as we can to help spread the word.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it really falls in line with, you know, us trying to work with other veteran orgs. It really is, you know, forgive me for the Navy term, but the rising tide really does lift all of our boats. And you know, if we're helping veterans and military spouses and they're helping us, then we should all share in that.
And on that note,
Crimson Tide.
You know, I did forget to mention, Aaron, but you raised a really good point. That network of organizations we work with across the veteran community. When a veteran or military spouse joins Vet Gigs, they say how they heard about us and which programs they use. So if they went through We Too Are Vets and Tech for Troops, both, then if they end up finding work on the platform later and any revenues generated on the platform, we then carve off a percentage of those profits to the organizations they used as well. So really, yeah, the rising tide does lift all boats in the veteran community. It helps the veteran talent who got these amazing opportunities, kickstarted or accelerated their career, and it lifts all the organizations they came through to help make that happen for them. And you know, that's something we're really passionate about and want to continue looking for ways to reinvest in the veteran community as we build these opportunities.
Yeah, outstanding. Well, guys, we're down to time. Thank you so much for joining in with us. I love your mission. I love what you're doing. So innovative as well. So especially for this space, right? For this segment in our audience. You guys are doing some great things. Thank you for sharing. Real quick, big smile, audience. Take a screenshot. Show Aaron some love. Post it out there, put that up on your social media outlets, tag them, right? So they can see and feel that love. And check out vetgigs.com, vetgigs.com. Great program. Guys, that's the show. Vet S.O.S. And let me see here. I know, Sean, you had created the tagline, so do you want to give it to him?
Which one? I came up with a whole bunch of them.
Whichever you prefer, man.
Oh, man, you put me on the spot. I didn't even have it up.
That's all right. I'll fill it in. So don't drown in the transition sea. We're talking about the tide. Don't drown in that sea. Grab the Vet S.O.S. Life Preserver and get your lifeline going.
Thanks,
you go, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Have a great weekend. And, look forward to our next visit.
All right. Thank you.
Take care. Thanks.